No, we are now live. Brilliant. Well,
Hello,
hello,
Internet.
hello to the interwebs. It's me, Nosey, and I'm joined by the brilliant Billy Edwards of
Wouldn't say
TFNation.
brilliant. I'm here. That's all I can promise right now.
So, how's everything been with you these
It's
past?
all
I
it's
don't know.
all good, mate. Please forgive me for being a bit rude and standing up.
Don't worry about
My mouse just died. I've got to plug an external in to get that device working. But that's okay because we're professionals here and we have two on hand at all times. So it's all good, mate. It's been weird because TFN has generally been chugging along really nicely all year.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, in the last probably 2 weeks, all of the various people who we work with externally to make TFN happen have all just gone boom and got really involved all at once, which means we've got really busy all at once. So yeah, it's kind of crazy, to be honest. But it's just the way it works. Like, so when you're talking about like production companies for AV and stuff, like some years it can be locked in like February, whereas like this year we're talking about it right now, and there's no right or wrong. Either's cool, but just depends on schedules and stuff.
Well, that's it. Like I say, it's good to keep busy, I guess, when it comes to these things. But at the same time, it's one of them where you just don't know where to turn, where your head's at.
just one of them. There's nothing you can do about it. It's you've just got to roll with it as best you can. I hope you may have lost my video there for a sec while my screen boots up. If that happens, I apologise. But
that's fine. Don't worry about that. It went a little bit glitchy, but you're fine.
Yeah, it'll probably do it a few times, but then we'll be all back. It's because, and obviously I can't talk too much about it, but you might have seen on the internet, I've been away this weekend.
Yep.
I was very kindly invited by Paramount to attend a pre-screening of Transformers 1, which I'm not really allowed to talk about. Can't tell you what happens. I can give you vaguely my opinion on it. But that's why my screen is glitchy, because I took my laptop with me, and it's just been funny when I'm plugging it back into my screen there, basically. So yeah, and that's why, I don't know if anyone's watching yet, by the way, but that's kind of why we're here as well, because my train got back a bit earlier than expected. It's just like, cool, well, we're here. We might as well crack on and chat.
Yeah, can do. Well, we have got a couple of people watching currently. It's 3 people, maybe 4.
Oh, awesome.
We've got Jinxed. It says, good evening, lads.
Oh, hey, Jinx. Jinx from where I used to live. I shouldn't say it out loud in case, data and all that, but I know you. Hi.
Starts getting like a frenzy of people outside his door. Like...
Exactly. Yeah. From number 7.
Then we've got...
It lives near where I went to uni, so that's how I know that. So.
Oh, right, cool. We've got Raymond, who says Knowlesy, and Billy.
Raymondo, how you doing, my friend? Raymond will be back this year. I think we can announce that. He'll be back, camera to the ready, doing his thing.
Yeah. If you want anything shot, then he's your man. If you've got a man down, he's definitely his second option.
I don't know if I like that. If you want anything shot and you've got a man down, like this is kind of like, Raymond, what are you doing? Bring cameras, mate. Don't bring weaponry. That's not what we're about.
Yeah. We've got Transformers the show in there saying good evening.
Hey, show guys, how you doing? Jump on them later on as well, by the way, everybody. They've got McFeely on tonight, I believe. So yeah, lots of stuff for you to watch. Or do these record as well? I guess if we're not finished, they could always watch that one back later as well. So however it works, just make sure you watch all the shows, because like people are cool. I was on there just recently. Nice lads.
Yeah.
Apart from that Pete Willis, what an animal, dearie me. No.
Yeah. Yeah, they are a great bunch of lads, just having a good laugh and talking about all sorts of Transformers stuff. And then, I had one of the guys on my pre-TFN live stream last year, but obviously he came on just before the TF the show started. So he came on. We started it about an hour. Had about an hour with him, and then you came on later on in the stream,
and ruined the whole thing with my terrible audio that evening. So hopefully a marked improvement for everybody. I'm trying my best here. So.
Oh, don't worry, I've had some absolute horror stories when it comes to audio over the years, especially the old when I first started out doing YouTube stuff, and I had a small little webcam, 4x3 and everything, and it's just shrunk nosy head.
Well, speaking to someone as you are who has a giant head, if you could point me in the direction of that webcam, it could definitely assist my private life. So yeah, I need that. We took pictures when we were at the movie thing, and it's like it was really nice to have a picture with all the team members who could get there. I'll send you actually. You can put it up in a bit if you want. But it was like it was also a reminder, firstly, that they're all much taller than me, and secondly, that in spite of them being much taller than me, I do have quite the head. So there we go. It's my own fault for having a picture taken.
What can I say? You're ahead of I can't get my bloody words out tonight. You're ahead above the rest. There we go.
Oh, there we go. That's a nice way of saying you've got a massive cranium. So yeah. I agree though. So it's all good.
All right, where are we? Jinxed again says, "Yeah, that's me, Billy. Hey, how you doing?"
Not so bad, Jinx. Not so bad. It's all been. I haven't been up that neck of the woods for a while though. I've got so I. Again, won't mention the place unless Jinx wants to. That's no problem. But it's where I went to uni, and I've got one mate up there who's still living there, and I go and see him every few months or something. Have a curry, have a few drinks. It's definitely overdue. I was thinking about this on the train coming home today, actually, and I was thinking it's overdue, but I'm right on the verge of TFN. It feels like it might be a nice post TFN thing to do, just to go and. Because this is the interesting thing about it. It's not interesting at all, unless you're me, I guess. But so my friend group, much like yourself, John, is all kind of centered around the convention.
Mm-hmm.
There are not many people I can go to who don't know about the convention for an unbiased opinion on something. But my mate John, he's not in that sphere at all. He's someone from my work side of things. So that's quite interesting sometimes, because when he asks about it, I guarantee the type of questions that you'll ask and do ask on your videos throughout the year, they're always useful questions, because it's not just you thinking, here's a panel. I want to know what's on that panel because I think it's cool personally. And that's a valid thing as well, by the way. But it's more you looking at it from the point of view of, there might be first timers here, so let's try and explain a little bit about what the panel is and stuff like that. And that's really useful. Whereas when you speak to someone who's completely outside, they have a different base level. So they might be asking something like, how big's the hall? They tend to ask logistical questions because they don't really have the Transformer knowledge. But it's just interesting. So yeah, I'll do that at some point, and that's up in Jinx's neck of the woods. So there we go.
Sweet. Yeah, like I say, when it comes to the questions I try to ask or try to kind of drum up is more supportive, kind of more experience. Because like I say, I've been to multiple. I've been to these conventions, obviously past before TFNation started, of course, since 2010. And so I've been going to a fair few of them. I've been, a stumbling first timer at one point.
Haven't we all? Yeah.
Very much a stumbling one, and I got over £1,000 less in pocket. I did that 2 years on the bounce as well. God. Yeah, so it's a very much one of those lessons, because obviously when you first go through those doors and the dealer rooms open for the first time, you see all those toys, and obviously I'd never seen that many except for a Toys R Us near us, and and seeing all those toys, and I just went absolutely nuts. But it's having that, it's kind of having a bit of like an experience thing. It's like as you recorded and put up as well, saying about you've got a record number of first timers, which is why it led me to do that video I did saying this is for the first timers. And I thought, well, not many people really seem to ask questions more at the first timers. It's more for the regulars. And I thought, well, there's going to be some people out there that are going to be going to the fair for the first time, but have got a lot of anxieties, and maybe they have special needs or access, the wheelchair access, all that kind of jazz. So I feel it's something. So that's why I asked it in a certain ways. Is, do you have any asking people that have been for so many times? What advice would you give these people? So I guess. That's basically why I try to lead when it comes to video questions, because I feel I've been there, I didn't know what to expect, and I had one of those really strange anxiety panic attacks at one point where my full body just shuddered and I couldn't move any further, and I was just frozen in spot, and I don't know what happened. I don't know if a ghost had walked through me at that point. I don't know. But all I can suggest is I literally just stopped, froze, and I could not move any further. And then eventually people started coming up to me, talking to me, and I eventually kind of snapped out of it a little bit. And I'm glad that I took that plunge of going to the 2010 one and been going ever since, and made great friendships since then. So it's a great experience if you can make that first step. And for some people, it takes a lot of courage to do so. So I've been yammering for too long, but I don't know what your 5 cents.
No, it's not yammering at all. It's funny actually, because so I've got a particular job that I have to do every year at the convention. I've got more than one job actually, but there's one which is really quite an awkward job, which is, when you get to the reg desk and you get your wristbands, you're also handed a program. Now, sometimes, like, people who've been to multiple events don't necessarily take a program, that they know where everything is, right? But so you might not know this, but like the program, it contains a bit to get signed by the guests. It pulls out, so the cover pulls off and turns into a framed piece you can have signed. Really cool if you're not sure what to have signed. But it's also got like things in there like tips for first timers. It's got like a map. It's got all of that kind of stuff. And the bit that I do is just like inside the front cover, I do a little bit just saying thanks to everyone for coming, basically. And it's really strange because there are only so many ways you can say thanks for coming. And when you get to like year 6 and 7 or whatever we were at, it's like, I'm running out of ways to say this. So I never not say it, but I try and focus on something a bit different every year. And like, you hit the nail on the head, because as you've been doing the first timer videos, or an emphasis on first timers, that's kind of where I've lent with my program notes this year. And there's no big spoiler in them, I don't mind saying. Like, what I've basically said in the notes is, yes, it's a record number of first timers. It's also a record it's also a record number of everyone. It's the biggest show we've ever done, and we're not even there yet. But at the end of the day, the thing that's important about TFNation is the one-on-one interactions. Like, I don't like attendance record, because what is an attendance record? Like, if I get 2 people more than last year, that's an attendance record. Okay, but like, does that really change anyone? It's really good for the convention, because it means that, we're going to break even more quickly, hopefully, and maybe there'll even be some money left so we can do something extra cool with it or something. Maybe we'll talk about that later. But in terms of the mass of people, that's wonderful, but it's really the individuals. So what I've kind of said in the program notes is I've kind of leaned on veterans, if you will. and I've said, look, this year more than ever, I'm counting on you to be friendly. Like, you're always friendly, but this year more than ever, like, be that shining light. And if you see someone who looks like they're a bit apprehensive, then welcome them into the group, because we've all been there. And, you know, we get new people every year, and that's fantastic. But with such a big influx, I just think, like, people like yourself, people like the guys at TF the show, you know, all of these people who are quite visible in the community. I don't necessarily want to say it's a responsibility, because I would never put it on people that way, but they certainly have the ability to really make someone's weekend special.
Yeah.
Like if you say, so I know your story about Andrei Salutsu, the voice actor, who knew you, and you thought it was a setup. If anyone's not seen John's video about that, so like this voice actor who plays Sideswipe in one of the live action movies, comes up to you in the hall, doesn't he? And he's like, "You're Nosy, I want to speak to you."
Yeah, he comes up to me in the bar. I think the Friday evening, and he told me to come by his table on the Saturday.
And the thing is, you've said in your video as well, you were looking around like, is this a wind up? Is someone told him?
Yeah.
But I knew it wasn't, because I have a pre-meeting with them when they land in the UK to make sure they've got all their gear for the weekend. And he asked me in that meeting, he was like, "Do you know Knowlesy? Because I've been going online and I think he's brilliant and I want to meet him." So, but the reason I bring that up is because, fair enough, you might not be a Transformers movie actor, but you'll still have that kind of thing where you or any of the other guys who are on YouTube and stuff, you know, you'll have attendees coming up, and they might be a bit starstruck, or they might be absolutely fine, but they're really desperate to say hello and stuff. And I just think it's really good generally, but this year in particular, let's all look out for our first-time attendees, basically, because that's where the future of the event is.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, like I say, I've always, I don't just say it just to, you know, whenever I finish a video off TFN related, I said, if you see me, come say hi. I don't just say it just to be nice or to sound nice. I say that on purposely.
Yeah.
Because if you see me, you recognise my face, you follow me, it's your first time. If you see me, by all means, come and say hello. I'm all for that. And I've had plenty of, not altercations, but I've had plenty of points over the years where I've had, like, someone I've never even, I don't even know who they are. And I've been stopped and had a really nice chin, where Jinx was one of those individuals, actually. And I remember when he first came for the first time, he was only a little kid with his dad. So it just shows just how old I'm getting. But yeah, so I remember him coming up to me and he handed me a hand-drawn picture, I think it was of Tarantulas or something, because he knew I love Beast Wars. And I thought, this is what makes it really cool. It's like, obviously, it's taken a lot for him to, for that person to come up to me. He apparently said he saw me from the corner of the bar and he was unsure whether to come and say hi. He was a bit anxious. So I thought, yeah, I was just saying, you don't have to feel anxious around me. I'm not, I don't see myself as a celebrity or anything like that. But, you know, by all means, come and say hello. I'm not going to bite. I'm not going to be one of those people that says, no, I don't associate with people that aren't within my circle, if you know what I mean.
But that's a really good example that you give using Jinx there, because you've talked about Jinx for, I'm sorry, Jinx, we're talking about you, but you've talked about their first interactions at the convention, and like they then went on to become a forger, to become someone who's like integral to the setup of the convention. And so it only takes, like, you know, if you imagine, I know this doesn't really happen at TFNation, but like if you imagine you went to a party, I don't know why I said party, as if I've ever been to a party, right? But these things humans call parties, right? Allegedly, other people are there and they're fun. Okay, so like, but imagine if you went to one and nobody interacted with you at all, you'd walk out. That is how I do parties, actually. But like, you'd leave and you wouldn't come back again. Whereas just the one person, and in this case it was you, saying hello, that gets somebody in. they'll then speak to other people as well. They'll then do their own thing. They wind up in the forge. They wind up as a trader. Like it's, I guess it's like the butterfly effect thing, isn't it? Like it's always really interesting to me because I see it from like obviously a staff point of view as well. So like you'll have someone who 1 year as an attendee asks a question, and I'll give an answer to the question, and maybe they'll go away and think about it, and they'll come back and say, "Well, I think I know a better way," and they're not meaning that in a rude way or anything. They're just like, oh, "Have you considered this?" And eventually, some of those people end up like working at the convention and stuff. So all the little interactions are really important because that's where the big things come from. So yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like the how the saying goes. It's like first time interaction with somebody could either make or break kind of the potential relationship in that situation. If you know what I mean, it's like
the first time I met you,
yeah,
and you came up and you were like, "How big is your head, Billy?" And I was like, "John, I don't think that's appropriate." And you're like, "No, you don't understand. Like, your ears shouldn't be either side of your shoulders. What's going on here?" Now, if you were not such a nice guy, that could have been the end of us right there. You know? But fortunately, we got past it. I learned to turn sideways before I go through doors, and now it's not a problem anymore. So it's a great example. Yeah.
Well, there's also another thing. I've learnt not to block fire exits.
Not to block fire exits. Did you block a fire exit?
Well, I don't know if you remember this, but this was again going back at least to 2010, 2011 time, and this was before we got properly introduced and started talking and all that.
Well, sorry, I've just pulled my mic out. 1 sec. On my headphones.
No, don't worry.
My fault. Sure, I can hear you again. Yep, there we go. I have regained nullity. Sorry about that, mate.
Oh, don't worry about that. Well, like I was saying, basically there was a point, and I don't know why. I've always remembered this, and I was just stood to the side, and I think it was either during the opening celebrations of one of the auto assemblies back then, or it was just generally in the main hall. And I remember just being stood to one side, and I saw you pointing over at me and going, "Don't block fire exits." And there was a big fire door behind me, and I was like, "Oops." for some reason, that has always stayed with me. But
I don't remember that at all, but it does sound like something I would say. So I'm happy to believe it probably was.
That's probably why you do the all what you call the boring jargon. When you do like the whole there's the fire exits.
Well, I mean, in the past I did that. Like for the last few years, we've our esteemed guests have taken the lead, and sometimes Genericon herself does it when she can be bothered doing a bit of work. Once a year, and she doesn't even do that all of the time. But she's just got a mind of her own, that one. But yeah, basically, any way to get someone more interesting than me on stage should be explored, and it should be done because like I'm not very interesting. That's why when I am on stage, it's either because there's like a change we need people to know about, or it's because it's in that panel at the very end where people do tend to ask more logistical, boring questions rather than transformery questions. Like, you ask me like a transformery question in that panel, like, firstly, I might not know the answer. In spite of being a Transformers fan, I'm rubbish at remembering stuff like that. And secondly, I'll probably make it up. Like, I'll probably lie to you. And just keep it going for the full panel. Because here's the thing, like if you make something up, but you say it with conviction, and then you keep referring to it, eventually people will believe you. So like, if I tell everyone that John Knowles has told me that his favorite character is G1 Wheelie, and like not only is that his favorite character, it's the only character he'll permit in his collection. That's why he has exclusively orange robots, because there aren't enough wheelie Transformers to go around. But if you say that in the right tone of voice for long enough, someone will be like, yeah, Knowlesy, Wheelie baby. Someone needs a nosy wheelie shirt now, by the way.
Oh God!
We need to make that happen.
Oh man! But yeah, all right. Well, we've got quite a few people. We've got 13 people watching currently, which is
awesome stuff.
That's actually a record for me.
Hey!
I don't think they're here for me. I think they're here for Seth and Mr. Billy Stripes.
Can't imagine that, mate. But still happy to see everyone anyway. So cool. So just so you know, John, obviously being the host with the most, has got control of like the comments and all of that stuff, haven't you? Yes. So I don't know what's going to come until it comes. So just have at it. I'll either give you the most honest answer I can or a lie. But either way, I'll do it in a nice way. So we'll see what we can do.
Okay, right. So we've got Graham, the Collector 75. He's here.
How you doing, Graham? How you doing, mate?
We've got Stephen Walker.
Yeah, hey, Steve.
Hi there. We've got Sammy, good old Sammy.
Hey, nice to see you, Sammy.
We've got Sam Silvermoon. Good evening.
Hey, Sam.
I almost said good morning. Don't know where I am.
It's morning somewhere.
Somewhere, yeah. Graham says, "I want to fly now. Now wait for another 13 days."
I mean that's really your decision, Raymond. Like, there's no wrong answer there. That's just on you.
Stephen says, "Looking forward to TFNation. Just had a festival last weekend and now getting hyped for this year's event."
Oh, awesome. Nice one, Steve. Oh, Steve, by the way, did you get your comic books through? Steve won a YouTube competition we did a little while ago. So hopefully they've reached you safely. Let us know. Let us know here. Like, don't email us. Just like talk to us here. So.
We've got Mr. Adam White saying good evening all. And
hello, Mr. White.
Knowlesy is a veteran grade.
Don't know how you should feel about that. I'd like to think he matures like a fine wine rather than calling him a veteran. But
I think I'm maturing backwards, to be honest. Degrading more than anything.
Yeah, Benjamin Button. Movie reference from Edward. That's the thing. Every time I make a movie reference, like, we have to acknowledge it, because generally speaking, if you ask me about a movie, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen the movies. I hear they're a thing people do. I'm not good at movies. So if I make a movie reference, like I just did, we all have to be happy that I did that. So as long as we're laughing with me and not at me, I'm happy. So.
Right then. Right. So Stephen says there's the quiz with the ever knowledge map feeling. So I guess you're talking about the Matrix.
The Matrix test. Yeah, the Matrix test. I'm not entirely sure what you're asking there, Steve, but you're asking about it, I think. So I'll just tell you a bit about it. So definitely, Chris has very kindly agreed to come back and do that. That'll be on Saturday night ClubCon. That is something that is more difficult to pull off than it looks, because if it goes well, you in the audience should just think, there's Chris McFeely and he's got a load of questions and I've got to guess the answer. And you shouldn't have to think much more than that. But like, from the back end of the people who are working behind the stage on laptops and stuff, it's really quite logistically challenging to get those answers and filter them in a timely manner, because it's like, Chris doesn't do like multiple choice quizzes, so it's not like if the answer's C, you press C, you automatically know who's the winner. You know, Chris is more evil than that. He likes to play with you, so like, it makes them a bit more difficult to mark. So we feel the pain as well, but it's definitely always a highlight of the convention. So it's always great to have Chris back.
Yeah, a lot of people have after it's finished and everything, or everyone's buzzing afterwards in the bar afterwards, and you got the energy there. You got like, oh, I was this close, so I almost beat this person. But yeah, it's always fun. I mean, you guys, like I always say, you always do an incredible job with trying to include different things, subject matters, and as well as your alternative programming as well, like your alternative panels, like you did for Gundam that time, and other things as well. Because obviously, it's not just Transformers for giant robots. There's other things, which I do appreciate. Even though some people, I've had people say it's a Transformers convention, it should just be that. Which I can understand that it is a Transformers convention, but end of the day, we're all there. We're all kind of a collective. We all have different. We're fans of other things as well. So I kind of like that injection personally of other lines and other subject matters that you do sometimes do.
I think you've got to be open-minded to stuff, because if you think about it, like if you, I mean, first and foremost, you can obviously go to the panels you want to go to and skip the ones you don't want to go to. Like the idea with us is try and get something that appeals to everyone. But if you've got like a very hard view of, like, even though I'm not going to go to, say, a Gundam panel, I still don't think it should be there, then I would challenge that and say, firstly, you're not watching it, so why does it hurt you? But secondly, like, the Transformers by nature is a franchise built on change. That's what they do. They change. And like, if we really want to just focus in on just the core Transformers, we wouldn't even be talking about Transformers. We'd be talking about Diaclone and all of the stuff it was before it changed. So it's useful. It's a bit like, not that I was very good at this, but it's like, when you've got an essay to do for school or university or something, and the teacher would always say, don't just write about what I've told you. You need to do some background reading so that I can see that you've read other stuff in your essay. And that's what it is. Like, because you can watch a panel about Gundam and you can really like it, and you can go and buy some Gunpla and do the kits from Gundam Mad in the trader hall, and like, you can have a great time. Or you can never interact with it again, but you've now got that knowledge in your head of, there's another side of like robot fandom and stuff. So conversely to all of that, though, this year is probably, I shouldn't say only, but it is probably the first year where, because it is the 40th anniversary of the Transformers, we have gone hyper focused on Transformers, because that felt like the right thing to do. Not because any of those things are wrong, because they're not, but it almost felt like, say we had a choice between a Gundam and some other anime or something, it was like, if you put one of them in the Transformers 40th anniversary year, it almost feels like you're elevating it over the others. Like, if you put Rock Lords there, does that mean you're saying Rock Lords are better than Gundam, for instance? Like, who knows? So to me, because it's such a big anniversary, it felt like, right, we'll return to that next year. But for this year, let's really focus on what we're here for, which is the big thing. So yeah, I've just argued both points there, but hopefully there's some logic in why we've done it the way we've done it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I see exactly what you're trying to do. You're trying to cater for a wider demographic, because there's going to be some people that go that maybe aren't into Transformers, but they're probably into something else. So at least it's something on the program that they can enjoy as well. I would say, like, that kind of thing. And like you said, there was that time where they did the Mapes brothers did the Visionaries panel, all this kind of thing. So I found those interesting, and I think that's what makes TFNation. I mean, I wouldn't say there's not any other conventions out there. I don't know, but
yeah.
But I think TFNation is quite a special case in that regard, where they do cater and they put much more emphasis on the attendee compared to, say, like Comic Cons, where you just pay your money, endlessly queue, and then go home. And then there's hardly much of an experience there unless you're going with a group of friends. Then that's different. But if you're just a solo traveler, then it's not going to be as much of a experience.
Yeah, and it starts with like, and there are other conventions that do a good job as well. So hopefully we do a good job. Appreciate what you're saying. There are definitely others that do too. But like for us, it's obviously it helps that we're already Transformers fans, or most of us are. We do have some people on the team because of their specialisms and not because they were Transformers fans, which is also helpful because sometimes they can look through a panel and be like, right, I don't care about the theme because it's not something that I know about anyway, but I want to know what does the audience member get from this. So that's quite a cool thing to do. But yeah, it's like it all comes in the way we kind of structure the event. And so for us, the way we structure the event usually starts with the guests. And I would say that's one of the big differences between us and like a big Comic Con is that unless they have like a Lord of the Rings reunion or unless they've got something that's a real big deal, there's not usually a pattern to the guest list. It's just what guests can we get. And then say they get a Doctor Who and they get someone from Lord of the Rings and they get a Stormtrooper, right? I know the big conventions have a lot more, but let's just say they're the three. Then that's the schedule because you're going to get a talk from a Stormtrooper, a talk from an elf from Lord of the Rings, and a talk from whoever the other one was, I've just forgotten. So like that's what it does. So what we do conversely is we try and build the guest list based on certain criteria we set rather than just who we can get. Like I'll say this, I don't mean this in a bad way. I could book a convention tomorrow based on all of the guest contacts we've got from over the years. Like it'd be very easy. It'd be a lot less work, definitely a lot less work. But that's not necessarily the show we want to put on because so for instance, Greg Berger is a returning guest this year. Okay. He's our first ever returning voice actor at TFNation. And that's something we thought about quite a lot because I've got a good relationship with Greg. Greg would love to come any year. We're happy to have him, but it had to be a year where it worked. Like it wasn't the case that we needed an extra name, so we got Greg. It was like, no, when we put together the different guests, who would fit? Who's going to be someone who'll interact in the bar? Who's going to be someone who'll have appeal for younger fans? You know, things like that. And then the real good thing that David Wallace does, Kal-El Prime on YouTube, our host at the event, is that he looks at the panels from a different point of view. So, like, he doesn't want, for instance, a Greg Berger panel. He'll give you a Greg Berger panel, but, like, it won't be like you'll get at a Comic-Con where it's just for an hour you talk about Greg Berger and then he leaves. What Dave will do is he will talk about the Transformers role that will ground people, but then he'll spin off of that because, like, we all love Grimlock, but we all know about Grimlock. So, like, you don't want Greg to have to tell the story every day of the convention, the same story. We want to know about the person and the experiences and stuff like that. So that's probably the difference between the two types of events that you mentioned there. It's more thought goes into it, I would like to think. And hopefully we end up with a better, like a more custom built end product that Transformers fans, we know they'll enjoy it rather than just putting guests there and hoping it works, basically.
Well, yeah, I mean, I can understand that because I've heard from other conventions and other events that where obviously you get special guests, could be a voice actor, could be from an anime or whatever, and a lot of the time, a lot of some voice actors are quite vocal. Obviously, they are vocal, but they're quite vocal with the experiences and the fans. Some of the panels, the way that they're done, are very generically done.
Keep talking, John. I'm just going off camera for a sec, but I'm still here, mate. Carry on. I'll be back in a sec.
Okay. But yeah, I find let me just feedback. Just give them muted for a second. But yeah, so I find that I've lost my very train of thought, to be honest. I've got you back.
Cheers.
I've actually lost my train of thought. I was just about to get into something, and my mind's just gone.
Sorry about that. I completely ruined it on you. I do apologise.
Oh no, it's not you. It's my mind's like that.
But yeah, we were talking about like the different types of panels and how some
Ah, there
events.
we go. Yes, that's
Yeah.
right. Yes. Yeah, the different types of panel experiences from what I've heard from actual voice actors themselves, like a lot of them find them quite generic. A lot of other like comic cons and stuff where they're asked the same question over and over and over again and things like that, and they're having to like say, and I understand every you're gonna get that you're gonna get people asking how do you become a voice actor, how do you do this, which is the most popular question,
Yeah.
which I can understand, and but it's one of those things is like with TFNation, as you just said, with David Wallace, Carl Prime himself, he does a great job at, as you said, kind of like trying to ground people by asking about the role, as you said, and then branch off of that, which is when you're at the panels and they're voice acting, interviewing a voice actor or whatever they do seem a little bit more insightful. So you actually take something away from it, like maybe some knowledge that you didn't know about, or a backstory of the time in the booth, for instance, and things like that. And you don't usually get that as much that I've seen from like coverage from these conventions, because there's websites that do convention coverage, and I don't, and that's what I like about the TFN, and the guys that are on the stage do an incredible job with doing that and kind of giving you, as you said, a more of a tailored experience with the panels.
Yeah, and you know what? This probably goes a little unheard of in the community, but I think it's only right that it gets a bit of a shout out. Is that one of the things we sometimes take for granted as Transformers fans is that Transformers has a really good fan wiki, the TF wiki. And it is really good. Like if you compare that to a lot of wikis that are out there for other fandoms, a lot of them, there are some good ones, but like a lot of them are dreadful. And then the Transformers community also has insightful people like Chris McFeely making videos, like Jim Sorensen, like archiving things and making books. So what that means is I don't really like the term hardcore, but I'll use it because I know that that's like an official phrase that is used. Like your hardcore Transformers fan, or your veteran TFNation attendee, for instance, like they tend to be more well educated on Transformers than some other fans of other fandoms, of other franchises. Now, again, not everybody. I don't want to make a sweeping statement, but what that means is, we'll use Greg Berger as the example again. Greg Berger is one of the actors who can tell you all about his favorite episodes. He can tell you all about Grimlock's New Brain, right? And that's brilliant because not all actors can remember that because it was a job that they did years ago. But I guarantee a lot of people in the audience can also tell you all about Grimlock's New Brain. So, like, it's definitely a conversation worth having for the people in the audience who are maybe new and haven't heard that before. But once it's been said, you can't go on about it for an hour. Like, you have to go somewhere else with the conversation. And that's what I think Dave and Patrina on stage are really good at, is taking the human aspect of the guest and saying, like, where do we go with this? Because they've got a framework for where they want to go. But at the end of the day, if the guest says something interesting, go with that instead. And it might take the conversation in a different direction, and that might be really fun. One of the things I can say, actually, that we're quite excited about for this year, which you haven't announced yet, is that we're going to have some guest hosts this year as well. Okay. So there will be certain panels throughout the weekend where, rather than our usual hosts hosting the panel, there'll be some other people. And in particular, there will be some of our guests who themselves are Transformers fans and professionals are going to be interviewing fellow professionals. And we're quite excited about that because, you know, if we've interviewed, I don't know, James Roberts, for example, like James Roberts has been to multiple conventions. We've probably interviewed James several times. We've got a good idea of James's repertoire. but what does another professional think of his work? Like, wouldn't it be interesting, instead of us as fans asking questions, if like an artist asked him questions, because they have a different perspective, because they're the people getting the writing from him. So maybe they, instead of asking about his career, they'll ask about his process and things like that. And we think that is something that could be quite exciting and could freshen up some of those panels, particularly for people who've been a few times. So that's something, we're not going to go overboard on it, because we're happy that we've got good hosts and they do a good job, but we're going to sprinkle this through the weekend and just see if it adds something a bit extra, and hopefully it will do.
Brilliant. Yeah, that sounds really interesting, actually. Right, let's get back on track, because I've got a lot of comments here. So, where are we? Right, Raymond again. I am all for declaring TFNation an international holiday. Wonder how Billy would think of that.
Well, I mean, it'd be great, because I'd still have to work it anyway, but it'd mean there'd be no excuse for you. I can't get the day off work, so you'd all have to come. So it'd be good.
Yeah. That would definitely help things out a bit. All right, sorry, I approve of this. TFNation has been an international holiday for a while, which is interesting. Yeah, that's actually.
Fair play.
It is going international with the appeal for people from other countries as well, which is interesting.
I mean, it very much is international. And like I don't have it in front of me right now, but what we do is, obviously, when you buy a ticket, one of the things that you have to do is input your address. So we've got that data, so we can look at it and we can say, actually, like, I'll give you a stat which you might not expect. One of the top countries this year for attendees outside of the UK is Czechoslovakia. What? And like, that's not something I expected. And I was speaking to some new attendees, because I try and make an effort to reach out to every new attendee to welcome them. Now, emails bounce, sometimes people don't reply, so maybe not everyone gets the email, but I send it to as many as I can, right up until about a week before the convention. And then I'm sorry, at that point, I've got to run a show right now. But like, I was speaking to one attendee who was from Czechoslovakia, and they got back to me and they're like, oh, thanks for getting in touch. I might be your first guest from Czechoslovakia. And I'm like, actually, no, I keep seeing that coming up this year. So I don't know if there's a big Transformers community there, but there is. So it definitely is an international affair. And I like that. Like, there's something really cool about bringing people from different backgrounds and countries and ways of life together. It's a bit corny, but the whole catchphrase, "We're all are one," like that is the deal. Like, come from all walks of life. Like, we're all Transformers fans. We're all going to be friends and get along. That really is the aim. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. All right, let's get on top of these comments, and then we can get into some questions, I guess.
Yeah, let's do it. Think of some questions, folks, and we'll go through your comments. But yeah, think of something. I'll do my best to answer for you.
Yeah, if anyone's got any burning questions, then please, by all means, mention them here while we're live. I've also got some that have been sent as well. That we can go through.
Outstanding. Cool.
So let's have a look. We've got Sam, Troubles of the Firestorm, is coming for the first time for like 2 years this year.
Ah, nice one, Firestorm.
So we've got Jinxed. It says, I love going to TFN every year. I'll bring it up on screen, that'll be better. I love going to TFN every year. I think every year my group and who I talk to snowballs, all thanks to those interactions. So, yeah.
Absolutely right.
It's a special event, really is. I've always said it's a special event, and everyone can be themselves at this convention. Nobody, we're all there for the same kind of subject matter, Transformers, but no one's going to be any judgmental thoughts or anything like that, as you would on the outside world, from people looking in. It's one of those. It's a very safe place for people to be who they are. Absolutely. Right, where are we? I don't know what that one's all about. Right, so Firestone. Many years from now, when Billy writes his autobiography, there will be many chapters on his encounters with Nosey and the scars they left on him.
I think that might be Knowles's autobiography based on the story from earlier. But it was funny actually, because this is going to sound really pompous and like I don't mean it to, but like I went to a mate's wedding in Cyprus, and when you're in Cyprus, what you do is you go and sit by the pool with a beer, okay?
Yep.
Unless you meet, because that involves outdoors and that involves sun. Those are things I don't like. So I thought, what can I do? And I started writing something called Convention Stories. And I thought, I don't have a book to tell. I don't, and I don't have an autobiography, because like you've got to be someone interesting to do that. But I do have a collection of weird stories from the conventions from over the years. So I started writing those down. So I don't know what I'm going to do with them. I don't know. Sometimes they go on the Patreon. I don't know, but they're there, and there's weird stuff. There's like the one about well, you'll know them, unfortunately, John. So that's the thing. So the deal with the weird convention stories is that you try and phrase them, and you give the weird thing first.
Yeah.
And then it keeps getting weirder until such point as you realize, that's what he's talking about. So I'll give an example, but you'll probably have heard of this one. But like this was before TFNation. So I'm in the Palace Suite in the Hilton. And it's the first year we've ever got the AV crew to rig the speakers onto the ceiling, that big strut that goes up there. If you look in the hall this year, there's a massive metal beam. First year we've ever done it. They've always been on tripods. And we're going to go for it. It gets all the wires off the floor. It makes the sound better, stops the feedback. Let's do it. But we don't know what to expect because we've never seen it before. So I'm there and I'm like measuring out the floor at the other end of the room for some tables or something. And then I hear chink, 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 chink. I'm like, oh, what's that? And I look up and like someone has walked past me. And I look up, chink, chink, chink. And I see this AV crew coming and they're all blacked out, right? They're all like proper black combats and everything, right? And I can see their climbing rope hanging off their waist. Chink, 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 all these hooks. And I'm like, oh, that's really cool. I didn't know they climbed up themselves to do it. Like, that's awesome. Chink, chink. And then I saw their automatic weapons. I was like, what? And it transpired that it wasn't my brand new AV crew I'd hired. It was the armed police, because that was the year, if you remember, that there was a protest at the hotel and somebody was on the roof. Now, I don't know about this. All I know is armed police have just walked in and not set up my AV for me. So I'm not very happy at this point. So like, so I follow these armed police, but they're like a hall's width ahead of me by this point. All right. So I run after them, and there's someone in the hall. I can't remember who it was now. And he goes, oh, have you heard? I'm like, no, I've just seen. Like, what's going on? And he goes, it's Batman. What do you mean it's Batman? This is a real, this is a thing that happened in my life, right? He's like, oh, it's Batman. Like, what do you mean it's Batman? He's like, he's on the roof. Batman's on the roof. Yeah. And there are armed police here. Yeah. Batman is on the roof and the armed police have come. Yeah. And I was like, okay then. Because that made perfect sense. Because if Batman was on the roof, nobody knows that the Dark Knight is a good guy. Let's be honest. He's a terror. He is a criminal. He turns up, he beats people up, and then he disappears into the night again. So that would make complete sense if Batman was real. So it was like, what is going on here? But it turned out to be that protest. And then, worst of all, it turned out not even to be Batman. The guy was dressed as a character from Watchmen. So it was just weird. So like stuff like that, I've got stories like that where weird stuff happens, and it's like I'll tell someone about it someday, but I don't know how or in what format. So maybe I'll keep some for you like this. So there you go. There's my Batman on the Roof story for you guys.
I actually remember that year because there was, I think there was a process happening during the actual event itself, wasn't there, as well? I don't know if it was a different
Yeah.
altercation, but it was the same year. And I remember kind of like, look, everyone was just like staring up at this guy and just like, what's going on? Everyone's looking up, and there's a guy on the roof like poking his head round, and there's police over.
The problem that we had though is so that without making any political comment on the group or whether it was right or wrong or whatever, it was a group called Fathers for Justice, and the way they used to the way they used to protest was they would dress as superheroes because that gets a lot of attention, and then they climb up on something like Buckingham Palace or for some reason the Hilton Metropole. It was because there was a particular meeting taking place in the Hilton, and that's what they were protesting. But because we are in the Comic Con sphere, that was a problem, because if even one of our attendees, who's probably going to know what superheroes look like, have just misidentified Batman, then an armed policeman could conceivably confuse this guy for a cosplayer. So we had to put an announcement out saying no cosplay allowed today until the police incident is resolved. So it was just one of those really weird days, and that happens at the convention, and you have to roll with it.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand that completely because obviously there's a lot of people dressing up, as you say, cosplayers all, throughout the full 3 days or whatever. And so, yeah, it's. I mean, like I say, you've got to kind of think of health and safety because, end of the day, yeah.
Don't want someone getting shot. Yeah.
I went to TFN and I got shot.
It's like, how was it banging?
Yeah. Righty then. Let's. There we go. Sammy says thoughts on a TFNation cruise. Because if there's a way to take the convention beyond, the best place to start is the ocean.
I mean, I'm wondering whether Sammy's a wrestling fan, because that sounds a bit like the Jericho cruise to me. So it's doable, but I would probably get some other staff members to do it, because I personally don't like the idea of cruises. And I'll tell you why I don't like it. Because when I go on holiday, I want to eat where I want to eat. I don't want to be stuck in one place and have to eat the food, because if I don't like it, I'm stuck. And secondly, I don't want to be stuck with all the people there in case I don't like them. I want to be able to move. And both of those things fall down on a cruise. I'm sure the people thing would be a lot better with TFN people, but I don't know how many fish finger sandwiches we'd get through on that boat. That's all.
Yeah, that would be interesting though. But I get where you're coming from. Having that freedom to go and eat wherever you want is better, I think, for an experience holiday. Well, experience on a holiday anyway. Right, where are we? All right, we've got Jermaine. He says, I see you've spent big money on your guests finally. Don't know what that's all about.
Spent some big money on the guests. Give me a follow-up there, Jermaine. What do you mean? And I'll happily respond.
I'm just having a look now. And then
I think what he means, Nolty, is that you've spent the big bucks to get me on. I think that's what Jermaine's angling at here.
Oh, is that me? I thought it was at you.
I think that's what he means. But if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But yeah.
I just want to let you know that check I sent you, it may bounce. Just let me know.
It best not. Damn.
Sammy says, agreed. It helps if TFN at least spreads so far to showing other attraction and than just Transformers. So that's in response to us saying about alternative.
Yeah, and to be fair, Sammy's got a good point there. And also, if you broaden that a little bit, it also kind of makes sense in the scope of the mini-cons that we're doing. So just as we've broadened the panels, we've also broadened the localities, the attendee base. So what we're seeing at the mini-cons, for instance. So just like a Gundam panel, we had people who bought tickets for TFN just to see the Gundam panels. and then they really liked TFN, which is brilliant. Now we have people who can't get to big TFN, but they're going to try out a mini con, and then I see them coming back to big TFN the next year. So like the idea of broadening attraction, just generally, it's a really good point, Sammy.
Yeah. Right. Where are we? There's a hell of a lot of comments. Right, Jermaine says the one day convention challenge. I can see it now.
I'll take you all on.
Raymond, usually Comic-Con panels is the host getting the questions out of the way. David TFN just interview the guests. They have a conversation on stage. Yeah, so
absolutely, that's definitely the best way to do it, because then it's organic. Because like I always think there's nothing worse than when you're watching an interview and someone's given an answer and then the host just goes, yeah. So anyway, and moves on to a different topic, because they're not really listening. They've just got a list to go through. So yeah, doing that, definitely the best way forwards.
Oh, definitely.
Unless it's me. There's a reason why I don't do panels, and it's because I'm a list-based person. So like I would do that. I'm not as good as like Dave and Katrina with actually talking like a human being. So so there we go.
Yeah, I struggle with just getting a sentence out. I mean, just in this live stream, how many times I've stumbled over my own self.
I keep doing it too, mate. We're getting old.
Yeah, definitely. I look 25 from the front and about 60 from the back. If you catch me in the wrong way, anyway. Sammy says it's incredible how TF Wiki has one of the most well put together parts of the fandom.
Yeah, it is. And that's what I was saying earlier. That really lends into the panels, because it means that the veterans have a certain level of knowledge, which is probably higher than some other conventions have. Again, that's not a sweeping comment on everyone, but if you're in a community where like maybe it's some anime, maybe there isn't much material in the UK, there isn't a solid wiki, then you're really going to that convention to learn about what you like as much as to experience it. At TFN, you still get that as a first timer, but as a veteran, you already know that, so we have to cater to both sets of fans, if that makes sense. So, but it's interesting, and it's something we enjoy.
Oh yeah. Sammy again, he says, which, considering other parts of pop culture, there's not that many that highlight important parts of people in the fandom. And he says, also, Billy, this sounds like a really interesting idea you've got planned for this. The professionals interviewing professionals, I think he's on about.
Yeah, I mean, I can't take credit for it. It wasn't my idea. It was, I think it was a Dave Wallace idea, to be honest, because he's very obviously involved in that. And that's something which, it would be very easy for Dave just to say, no, I'll do the panel because I'm the host and I want to. But he wants to inject a little bit more creativity into it and make it a bit more interesting. So, yeah, fingers crossed.
Nice one. I mean, I do think it's a really interesting idea because I've never seen anything quite like that before. So it's definitely an interesting idea. Wait, Adam again. I remember the time we had two parties travel from Australia to an event, and they lived in the same town but didn't know each other.
It's crazy. Whole international affair. It's like, yeah, because you see them coming in as the tickets, and you think, oh, that must be like two mates who've decided to come together or something. It's like, no, just heard about the Transformers and wanted to come. So
well, that's a funny thing with a certain Mr. Tony Frussell. Now, my first convention was 2010, and I obviously had no idea he lived in Hull. He lives literally like 10 minutes up the road from me. I had absolutely no idea. And I remember watching the 2009 video he did where, talking about his excitement for that year. And obviously I couldn't go that year. So I went to 2010, and that's when we finally met face to face, me and Tony. And then I found out he lives in Hull. He's only 10 minutes up the road from me.
Yeah.
I was like, this is really strange. This is just kind of like one of those out of body experiences where you just didn't realize there's another person literally like 10 minutes up the road from me that goes to these as well. And yeah, so the other person that is waving the flag for TFNation, I had no idea. I had absolutely no idea. But it's funny when these things happen because obviously, like they say, the world's a small place, isn't it? You know,
Yeah, it really is. I used to remember there were never any, and I don't mean like there were few. I mean there were never any attendees from where I live because I used to look and there just weren't. And now there's loads. So they come from. I don't know them. We don't outside of the convention, but yeah, it's small world, mate.
It certainly is. Stephen says, are there any plans for a figure of sorts for TFNation? I could see Genny, Action Master.
Ah, Jenny. So our mascot was called Genericon, or Jenny for short. I would not say that there are plans, but it's certainly something that we've looked into. We would love to do that. It's just doing it in a way that works. So, like for instance, you can 3D print a figure. Mm-hmm. You could do that, but I think if we 3D printed a Jenny figure, I think quite a lot of people would want it, and very soon it would probably end up too expensive to do that because we wouldn't want to charge people a stupid amount for it either. So it's just getting to the point where it's like, okay, can we find a way to produce it in the quantities we need, but it's also a fair price for people? So that's my answer to that question. But yeah, it'd be a really cool idea. I'd like it. Jenny would really like it though. So I mean, that on its own, that's a reason not to do it because she's annoying and none of you should like her. So there you go.
Another question. We finally get some questions. Woo! Are there any plans? Oh, you just asked me the same question twice. He's asked me the same question twice. Sorry.
Answer it again if you like.
Sorry, Sam's having to go. Silver Moon. I have to go to work now. Boo. I'll catch up with the video later because it does get recorded, so you can watch it as a video once it's finished. See you, Billy, and everyone, for the best party of the year.
Awesome. Have a good shift, Sam, and we'll see you soon. But we'll keep talking. So awesome.
It's nice that she managed to catch at least a good nearly hour of it, anyways. Because usually when I go live, she's at work and she misses it. So,
see, my train getting in a bit early saved the day for her. So.
Adam says, "I remember Batman on the roof. 100% true. It is true. I can vouch for that because I saw him. So, yeah. I don't know if it's the same guy, but it's definitely someone in Batman or something like that.
I really hope he was the same guy. Two of them up
there. A revolving shift patterns. Right. So, how would you feel about the idea of TFNation stage play idea? By that I mean performers in the supposed cosplays reenacting whatever story is pitched.
That is not the first time that has been pitched to me. There was even an occasion where we explored it a little bit. We didn't go, and I'll tell you why we didn't go there, is because, and this is not to say that we won't go there in the future, but like, the only way that we could make it work was to use members of the crew as the actors. And some of the crew are actors. Like some of the crew act in their private lives and stuff, so they could do it. But the concern that I had, rightly or wrongly, was I don't want, as much as I'm here answering questions, it's because I know some of the answers. It's not because TFNation is about anyone in particular. And I was just a bit worried that it might look like we were putting ourselves on stage, to be like, oh, look at us. So that's why, for instance, like I said earlier, I'm very rarely on stage at the convention because I don't need to be, because I'm not particularly interesting to listen to. I'm nowhere near as interesting as like Dave. And Petrina's very good at getting answers out of people, whereas I'm a list-based person. So, like, if I was putting myself on stage in a panel, I would have to be a real expert on that subject matter. Otherwise, why am I doing it? So that's why I'm only on stage when I need to be. And I think that's the way it should be. Like, I think it's important that we keep the attendees and the transformers front and center. That's not to say we'll rule that out. If we can come up with a way to do it at some point, maybe. But we just have to have a think about it. Good question, though. It's interesting that it's already been pitched.
Yeah. Right. Right. Okay. So we've got Jermaine asking a question. Assuming Legends passes are here to stay, if you have multiple guests under that tier in any given year, is there the likelihood of a discounted price for people wanting to see them all?
Potentially, yeah. So this is the first year that good question, by the way. This is the first year that we've had multiple Legends. I'll just very quickly summarize what that is in case anyone's watching and doesn't know what the Legend Pass is. So, like, at a lot of conventions, once you've paid at the door, you go in, you go to a guest table and you pay again, and then you get an autograph. At TFNation, the deal is once you pay to get in, you can go and take your own item to be autographed and not have to pay extra for it. Now, you can't take 10 of them. Like, at some point, if you've got loads of items, a guest is entitled to say, hang on, come on here. Like, I'm going to charge you if you bring in me every comic book you've ever owned. So we generally say try and keep it to about 2 items because that feels fair. It also keeps the queue moving for everybody else. What we brought in last year was an optional thing called a Legend Pass. So the Legend Pass takes one of those same guests. So it's not a paywalled guest, and that's the important part. It's a guest who's already there signing for free, puts them in a separate room for a couple of hours over the weekend, and you get to go in, sit down, have a chat with them in a more confined and intimate space. We've dressed it up nicely. And you haven't got people bearing down on you in the queue. You get some exclusive artwork that you get signed. You get your own autograph. It's a much more, I don't really like the word, but it's a much more kind of premium experience, if you will. And one of them, I'll tell you where it came from as well. One of the main reasons for it was the year that Stan Bush came. I always remember, it's one of the few convention regrets I have. It wasn't really a regret because I did what I could do, but like there were people queuing at his table, and I went over and said, Stan's not coming back today because he's gone off site to rehearse, and then he's doing the concert tonight. So there's no point queuing. We've put a sign up. He's not coming back. And they said, no, we're going to wait anyway, just in case, because we've come just to see him, and we're not here tomorrow. This is the only chance we've got to see him. And so I thought, okay, well, maybe if there is a guest who will make or break your stay, it might actually be beneficial for you to have a way to book to see the guest, so you're guaranteed to see David Kay, for example. So that's the background on it. So now to answer Jermaine's question, this is the first year we've tried. The way we've tried to do it is rather than pricing them all at the same price, we've brought in a price structure based on how long you've been your tenure in Transformers, the amount of characters you've done. So, for instance, Kat Kavari's Legend Pass is quite a bit cheaper than, for instance, David Kay's, because he's done like everything in Transformers. And although I really like what Kat's doing, Kat's done it for like 2 years. So there's a definite difference there. So that's the way we've tried to do it in year one. If that doesn't work, it might be that in year two, they're all the same price, but with a discount if you buy multiples. Or it might be we could combine the both, and we could say they are different prices because we think that's fair, but there's also a discount if you buy multiples. So I think it's doable. The only thing that's a difficulty in terms of technology is when the discount is applied. So without boring you, it's a question of if you buy them all at once, it's very easy to know you bought them all at once and we give you the discount. But if you buy one and then you buy one 2 months later and then you buy one the day of the show, can we build a system that recognizes you've done that rather than me having to remember them all? If we can build a system that does it, and the answer will be yes, but it's just how difficult it is to do. If we can do that, it makes it a lot easier to do. So, yeah, I think it's a good point. It's definitely something that we'll explore. We just need to work out how it would work, basically.
Okay, cool. Right. Oh, we've got Kel Prime. We've got David himself saying,
Hey.
"Bob, can I have a pay rise?"
I mean, he can, but like, I'm not his employer, so like, it's somebody else he should be having that conversation with.
Yep. Raymond says, "Nosy, do you realise we have known each other now for 20 years? Bloody hell! 2004 on the Don Murphy forums. I had no idea.
Oh.
Bloody hell! That just shows how old I am." Right, Sammy. In terms of location, if it was possible, where would you like the future TFNation to go, or would Birmingham be a permanent home base?
So if it's where I would like it to go, I would like it to stay where it is forever. For two reasons. Firstly, the location. It's right in the middle. It's got good transport links for everyone across the country and internationally. It's got an airport. And secondly, I like the hotel setting because that comes with a built-in bar. And I think the best memories come from people just having a chat and having a laugh with each other. And you lose some of that when you go to different locations if they're not hotels. The difficulty TFN has is we're so big for a small convention that there's only 2 hotels in the UK that we will fit in. One of them is the one that we're in, and one of them is the other Hilton Metropole, which is in London, which is going to be quite similar to the hotel we're in, being it's the sister hotel, but it's going to be at London prices for everybody. Yeah. So for me, where we are, and I'm not just saying this because we've got a contract there, because I don't like the word famous. Notorious might be a better word. I'm quite notorious for being openly honest and blunt about stuff, even if it's not in my interest to do it. Like, I will quite often talk attendees out of buying certain passes because I think they'll have a better time if they come for one day first, or if they don't get the Legend Pass, or whatever it is. Like, because I think you got to be honest with people. So it's not because we're there, it's because I genuinely do think that's a good location. To take Sammy's question a bit further, though, if we were to move it, it's really a case of, does it need a bigger location? Because then you're looking at somewhere like the NEC, and we're right on the kind of borderline at the moment. So I want to try and keep it in a hotel for as long as we can, because I like the atmosphere. But we'll see. Like, if it doesn't grow anymore, then that's fine. It fits in the hotel. If it continues to grow, we'll have to make a decision as to, do we want to do that, or do we want to have an attendance cap? Neither of those are easy decisions. But that's the kind of thinking that goes into it. So hope that answers the question, Sammy.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. I mean, at the end of the day, overcrowding in a small place or in rooms is not a good idea. It can open itself up to some kind of disaster if there was a fire to break out or anything like that. So you've got to put all that thought process. You need to understand that there could potentially be a problem, and how can you safely get a room or hotel full of Transformers nerds out safely without potentially getting hurt or worse. So you got like that time again. Was it 2010 again? Oslo Assembly, the fire alarm.
Fire alarm, yeah.
Yeah, fire alarm, yeah. And everyone was like, I think someone was trying to get nick the displays, all the Transformers. That would be a good idea because it gets everyone out of the hotel. So
yeah. put it all outside, make them follow. But it's interesting that you brought that up, though, in the safety point of view, because obviously Sammy wouldn't have known this in advance. But at some point tonight, whether it's now or whether it's a bit later, we're going to show something that actually relates to that. An image that I've sent you just the other day that we'll have a chat about. So we might bring that back up again a bit later, Sammy.
Okay. Right, Jinxed is back saying, with the Legends Pass, if you buy one, can you go with a group of friends, or do you have to buy multiple?
It depends on what you mean by a group. So typically we don't mind if there are like a few people coming in at once, but you still only get your one photograph and your one autograph, because otherwise the guest isn't being paid for 2 of the 3 people who've come in. But we have to exercise some discretion with that, because at the same time, if a group of 10 people came in, that's a bit of a problem as well. So we're kind of flexible with it. If it's like 1 or 2 people, we don't mind. But we just have to make sure people know, if you've just paid for 1 slot, you're still only going to get the same amount of time as the next person, or it wouldn't be fair on that person. So that's my view on that. But it's a good point, because also for people with kiddies, like, we don't expect them to buy another Legend Pass for their kiddie. Like, by all means, just come in. Like, it's no problem. But yeah, good question.
Okay. Sam's come in saying, what was the origins of Cesium Rex? I guess a little flushing.
Cesium Rex.
There we go.
Cesium Rex, who's in a box with me right now. Do you want me to get one out live? Let me get a Cesium Rex for you. I'm just going to go off camera for a second.
No problem. We've seen it here first, folks. Well, kind of. You've seen images, but we're going to get a look-see. Let's bring him back here.
Beauty is Cesium Rex. And so Cesium Rex had a bit of an interesting story. So I don't know if I think it was Sam who asked the question, was it?
Yes, it was, yes.
Yeah. So I don't know if Sam means the origin as in the character, or as in how the product came to light. So I'll give a little bit of an answer on both. So the initial idea was, we wanted to try something that wasn't a teddy bear, but was similar to a teddy bear, because some of the people who buy the teddy bears every year would like different animals. However, the people who buy the teddy bears really like the teddy bears. So it's like, okay, well, it can't replace the teddy bear. It has to be something that works with it. That led me to think, well, 2 of our guests this year turned into T-Rexes, so it makes sense that we have a T-Rex. The product itself is a blue T-Rex. I was speaking with Ed Pirrie. I showed him a version of it without the T-shirt on, because he hadn't designed the artwork yet. You'll see the artwork is a G2 themed TFNation logo. Because Ed saw it and straight away he said, blue T-Rex is G2 Grimlock. That's what I think of straight away. So that's where it came from. The name Cesium, as in Cesium salami, it's all Grimlock references basically, but in a G2 fashion. And so, yeah, that's it. And Cesium Rex, the pre-orders have closed now. You can't go on the website and get one, but there are going to be some at the event. If you'd like a Cesium Rex or a Beryllium, who is our other cuddly friend this year.
Okay.
Good dino.
So we have a question from LSM1. I like the idea of the Legend Pass and did one for Sue Blue last year. The only drawback was the wait time for the photo to be emailed out. Is it likely to be improved for this year?
Yes, it is. It's still not going to be instant. And I'll be honest with you, even if the photographer turns around and says, I'm going to do it same day, I'd tell them not to, because I want to make sure that's gone through a quality control process first. Like, the whole point of our Legend Passes, and this is why we don't print them on site as well, to be honest. Like, that's an option. The reason we don't is because it adds extra time into people's weekend, because they have to come back and get them and stuff. But also, if you get, I don't want to say this in a bad way about another photographer, but like, ultimately, the type of photos you get at other conventions, if you're blinking, you're blinking. if you're not looking, you're not looking. They don't care because they're printing it, you're getting it, and you're leaving. And that's the end of it. There's no real quality control in there. So that's why it takes a bit of time. We're trialing a new process this year, which we think will get them out more quickly. And we're also, one of the things we did last year, which it wasn't actually included in the package. So LSM1 will know this. Although they paid for a Legend Pass, they ended up getting a Legend Pass and a video of their experience. And that was one of those learning curves for us, where it was like, we thought this is a really nice bonus thing that people would like. And they did like it. But ultimately, it takes ages to edit videos. So, like, I don't know if there will be videos this year, because, again, they're not included in the pass. It's something we did as a freebie. So, like, if we did them, I think this year I would probably say, don't send them out. Do the photographs, because that's what people are really waiting for. Let's trim that time right down. I think it was about 3 weeks last year, something like that. Let's get that down as much as we can. And then once that's done, if we've got video footage, cool, we can do it. But like, no one's waiting on it at that stage. Like, they're happy with a bonus. So I think that was probably, it was partly us trialing a new thing, getting to grips with it, and partly us trying to do something nice, but in the process, making it take longer for everybody. So hopefully you'll get them more quickly this year, and importantly, they'll still be good quality.
Okay, brilliant. So what's Sammy again? Says, question for John. What's been the most positive takeaway from going to these cons that you could share with any first timers that are worried about the entire experience? Well,
Sammy's got all the good questions tonight.
He has.
Sammy.
A positive that I can take out of going to conventions, obviously, like I said, I've been going since 2010, and I've already said earlier on in the stream about me having this like anxiety panic attack when I'm in a very first experience. So I know what it can feel like and how daunting it can feel like to be in a room with people that you've only ever seen on a small monitor, and some people you've never met before, and it can be very. Yeah, it can. Some people are all right in those situations, but I struggled a lot because it was the first time I ever actually set foot outside of Hull at that point. I'd never really gone out except for just down the coast with my parents and that. This was literally 2010 was the first time I ever really ventured out on my own to go somewhere else. So it was very much a different experience on more than one front, and so I was excited, but at the same time incredibly nervous. And when I got there, it just seemed to go down and then peak once I started to talk to people. So to not make this answer too long, but a positive I can take out of going to conventions is, for me, it's helped me massively with meeting new people, coming out of my shell more, and not being as nervous around new people, and making new friends. It's the people that makes me come to TFN. Yes, I love Transformers, don't get me wrong, and I love checking out the voice actors and the panels and meeting them. That's also another plus. But for me personally, it's always been the people. It's the friendships I've made over these many years of going, and that's my personal draw. It's the social side of it. But trying to give some advice to any first timers is, like I said in the video talking about this subject that I did, that was directed at first timers, was just take everything in your own pace. Just take regular breaks, hydrate, go and get a shower, go and relax and chill out, take some time for yourself out of everything, because it can be if you're somebody that suffers with too many people in one room, or claustrophobic or anything like that, if it gets a bit too much for you, because that main hall, the yellow room, it gets very, very busy, especially as soon as it opens. So, like I said in the video I did as well, is I wasn't trying to aim people away from buying advance tickets, early door access. But my point is that at that point you're going to get the stampede straight through the door. And I was saying what I was meaning with that fact is go a little bit later when the doors have been open for say half an hour or so. That way you should be able to freely move around a bit more. So I was saying it more for health and safety more than anything.
No, but it's a good point, because I said that recently to a parent who got in touch. Their kiddie wanted to come. They didn't really know what to buy because they'd never been before. So we're thinking about early access. Should we get it? And I was like, well, if your kiddie is like a hardcore collector, needs to be in there first because they specifically collect boxed Diaclone and there might not be many in the building, then fine. But I don't reckon your 8-year-old is that fan. I reckon that's people more of our age. I would save yourself the money on that pass. And then if again, yours is a good point. If you're someone who suffers from anxiety, like we have some panels on during this weekend. We've done it for the last few years. We put some entertainment on during that first hour, which we call Avoid the Rush. Now, this year, it won't be called Avoid the Rush. It'll be called something else. But in the description, it's say, avoid the rush by watching this panel. And it's like, it's just a way to take you out of that situation before you ever get into it. Like, you could do that, and it could be quite stressful for you. Or you could go back to your room, like John said. Or you could sit and watch an episode or some entertainment, something. Like, just chill out for an hour and let the stampede do its thing, and then you'll have a much more chilled out experience. So no, I think you did exactly the right thing by saying that, John. I'd have done the same.
Yeah, like I say, I mean, I didn't want anyone to think I was trying to, get people to not pay a little extra if need be.
Look, I own the company and I do it. Like it's that simple. Like no, but you have to, because like ultimately, if you're going to give someone if I'm going to give someone some advice that is negative to me, then I think I still gain from that conversation, because that person is going to come away trusting me, because like that mum could have given me an extra TFNation could have given TFNation an extra £35 that she didn't need to, and instead we've sent them away happy. They know that they've saved some money, and they know it's actually quite busy. Let's do this instead. So I think it's always the right thing to do. Like it's absolutely right. So don't ever worry about that, because we do the same thing, Matt.
Okay. LSM1's come back saying thank you for that's the pass one. Where am I?
Oh yeah, the legend pass. Yeah, no worries, mate. No problem.
Yeah, there we are. Thanking for the answer.
The only thing I haven't done, just to expand on that, I haven't specifically said you will have them within X amount of days, because the second you give someone an indication of that, some people will read that wrongly and think that is definitely the truth. And it's not even their fault. They might just read it and think that's what I've said, or maybe I've not been clear or something. So I've not set a firm period, because it needs to be right rather than fast and wrong, because that just doesn't help anybody. But yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed, with the new rebalancing of that system, we'll get them out a little bit quicker this year.
Great, yeah. Jermaine's come back again. Do you know if there will be food stalls at the Hilton this year, as they have for the past on occasion, because he said they had more options for gluten-free food?
Yes, they did. That was something where we were specifically able to have an input into the menu. The street food type stalls that they had. Yes. As of this moment, they're not having them this year. It will be more like last year, where it's the bar, but there's an additional menu that's on in the bar. So if that changes, I'll let them know. That is something that tends to change quite late in the day. And with complete honesty, it depends on the mixture of events. So if you've got 2 events where the street food has performed well for the hotel, then they know that it's good. But if you've got one event where nobody eats it and they all go to the bar, then they're probably not going to do it. So in my head, I feel like this is going to be a year whereby it's bar service, but that could potentially change. Either way, though, I'll bring up the gluten-free point, because regardless of where you're ordering from, I'd like to think there'd be like more than one option for your dinner, to be honest, mate. So I'll definitely ask him.
Okay. Raymond says, what can you tell us about the ClubCon announcement earlier today?
The ClubCon announcement. In fact, I'll tell you what, John, I'll send you a link. We've got a private chat here, haven't we? Look at me learning where the buttons are. Look at me go. I should start running a convention or something. Right, okay, so private chat. If I send you the link to it. So earlier today, we announced a panel. I don't know if you've seen this yet, John, actually, because you were putting a video up, so you might have been recording at the time.
I probably might. I might have missed it.
So we have announced that what we think is going to be one of our big highlights of this year's convention is a segment that we're putting on during ClubCon, which is called Much More Than Meets the Eye.
I'm just bringing it on screen now. Just one moment.
Now, there is a trailer online which explains it better than the post, but I've given John the post because obviously if he plays the trailer while we're talking, everyone's sound levels will go a bit skew-if.
So I'm just gonna fix this. Just give me
you can even just read that for yourself. I'll just read this out. It's no problem. But so basically, if you are of a certain age, you might remember that the original 3 episodes of Transformers were called More Than Meets the Eye. Or in the UK, they were edited together as one big thing, which was called Arrival from Cybertron. There's a bit of a dispute as to which is the correct one. Your mileage may vary. That is the seminal piece of Transformers media, because they were the very first episodes. And they aired on the 17th of September 1984, 2 days before I was born. It's my 40th anniversary as well. So the deal with those episodes was that it was the original 3-parter, and like a lot of G1, the stuff in that episode that doesn't really look right. There are things like animation errors that are in lots of different episodes. And there are also cut scenes from those episodes. And we know there are cut scenes. We knew this anyway. Like, there are cut scenes on the internet. You can go and you can find audio recordings that were intended for that episode. And you can find the script, which has the lines, but then they didn't make it into the final cut. So what we've done, and I'm going to, at the risk of forgetting some names here, because it was a multi-person, year-long project, and I apologize, I've got a really itchy nose because I've got hay fever. The Mapes brothers, who are 2 of the directors at TFNation, have come into possession of some of the original audio reels from the G1 cartoon days. So these are the actual reels that were created in the studio when Wally Burr was recording the actors. So we've gone through their reels, we've gone through the publicly available reels, and effectively a team which comprises of Chris Carter, who's incredible. He's a professional Transformers artist and a member of TFNation. He does so much for us. Chris Carter, if you're not familiar with his name, you will be familiar with our opening ceremony videos every year. That is something that Chris has done every year since he started with us. Dave Wallace, who's obviously on stage, Andrew Turnbull, who oversees most of our printed media productions, and Chris McFeely, who you also might have heard of. They've kind of combined forces and said, right, wouldn't it be cool if we made the scenes that were chopped out? So if we took the audio, we put it back where it was supposed to be in the original draft, and then where there's no animation, we just made the animation. And then Chris Carter, because he's absolutely nuts, he's then gone, okay, but what if I've fixed some of the common animation errors that are in this episode? So that's what we've done. What we have also done is I want to explain this in the right way. We don't want anyone to look at this and think that it's a deleted scene that has been found and it's real. The audio is real, but the animation is something that we've created. So it will be apparent on screen when TFNation has put in a segment, just so there's no confusion as to that. Some of them, it might go right by you. It might be that you have to watch this and with a real close eye on it. It might be that you want to watch the first 3-parter before TFNation and then watch the version we've got. So we're quite excited about it because it's going to take lines from, I'll give you an example. There's a line in there from Ironhide. Okay. It's not anything massive. It's just, but there's a few lines from Ironhide actually. But if you think about it, that's the first new line from G1 Ironhide in 40 years because Peter Cullen was never recast as Ironhide. So up until TFNation this year, whatever you've heard of Ironhide on the DVDs is all you've got. Now you're going to get more Ironhide and other characters as well. So we're quite excited about it. We think it will go down really well during ClubCon. So there you go. If you go to our Twitter, which is at TFNation LTD, you'll be able to see a teaser trailer for that, which explains it better than I can explain it in person. But yeah, hopefully that'll be something for people to enjoy.
Yeah, sounds really, really interesting. That actually, I'll be at ClubCon anyway, so definitely check it out.
What we're going to do, actually, we're going to do a panel the next day as well, breaking down the behind the scenes of it, because I think that is as interesting as the finished product, if you will. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Nice. Sammy's back saying, a question for Billy. You mentioned in Transformers the show about a possible concert idea associated with TFNation. If it was possible and it was financially manageable, who would you pick music-wise?
All depends on the size of the audience and the venue. So the beauty that we have when we did like the Stan Bush concert at TFNation, lots of Transformers fans are already Stan Bush fans. So we already had the fans on site. So they had to buy a ticket, but we didn't have to go and find them. They were already there. If you were doing something which is specifically a concert which is not during the convention, then what you've got to think of is people have got to pay for extra travel, extra hotel rooms. Are they still going to do that if there isn't a traders hall? So long story short, what I'm saying there is I can't imagine it would be multiple acts, because if you've got to pay for like 5 bands, make a mini festival out of it, for instance, then you've got to be assured quite a lot of attendees are coming along for that. So I think if you were ever to do something like that, I think you would pick 1 or 2 acts, like a Stan Bush, for example, or someone like that, and you would really highlight that person. It's not something I've put a lot of like logistical thought into, but they asked me on the show, dream wish for TFN, what would you like to do? I just really like doing musical things. We've only done it like the one time with Stan, but we've had a few musical elements at TFN, and they're always a lot of fun. So yeah, something like that.
You can't beat live music, definitely not. Right, so let's get back on track. So I've got Raymond saying conventions, you go for the exclusive figures, get your haul in TFNation, even if there was not one figure to buy, we'd still go for the experience and the people.
That's nice to hear, Raymond. Appreciate it. But I mean, and that, to be honest though, with experience, pulling that back to the concert point, that's really what a concert is, like, in the nicest possible way. You're not going to a concert to hear a track because you can do that from your phone. You're going for the experience of hearing and being involved in something different. So that he's right. So
yeah. Adam White says one of the bonuses of Sunday is enjoying a more relaxed and calm trader hall. That's true.
That's true. Yep. Absolutely. Quite often recommend Sunday to first timers for that reason. Like, come and try it, and if you enjoy it, then you know it's worth coming for the Saturday in future. But come when it's a bit more chilled. Yeah.
Jermaine, okay, I will be prepared for food situations at TFN, but good to know my options. Stephen's back. ClubCon, yes. I love the behind the scenes stuff, isn't it? Yeah, it's always good. I'll definitely be checking that out. Jermaine, I cannot wait for this animation, and the clip you've posted looks fabulous. I can't wait to purchase it one day on VHS.
Might be a couple of problems there, but I suspect Jermaine knows that, so I think that's fine.
All right, so we're up to date there with the live chat. So I have got some more questions that I was sent in previous.
Yes.
So let's have a look. I've got right. I've got a couple questions here from Ashley Mansfield. He asked, are there going to be charges for selfies this year?
So there has never been a TFNation rule on selfies. We've had this is something where, and I'm not saying Ashley is making a mistake here, by the way, but I'm expanding the question a bit because I have seen people do it before. Some people think we have a rule that guests are not allowed to charge. That has never been the case. The rule is in relation to autographing your own item, but a selfie isn't an autograph. And a voice recording isn't an autograph. Now, when it's a voice recording, if I take myself out of Convention Planner and just put myself into a Transformers fan for a second, I feel quite comfortable paying for a voice recording because you're asking for a sample of a person's work. That's like if I go to Jack Lawrence, who's an artist, and say, will you draw me a character? To me, that's the same thing. So an audio recording I have no issue with. A selfie is allowed, but it's something which, I mean, I personally probably wouldn't pay for a selfie, I'll be honest. Then again, I don't take selfies because, as we've discussed, massive head. It's really difficult to get in. I don't like the way it looks anyway. But the issue with the selfies is that a lot of our guests come from America and Canada, and the culture over there is quite different to the culture here. The culture over there is you pay for all autographs, you pay for all selfies, you pay for all everything. That's just the way it works. So when the guests come over here, in order for them to be able to work within our rules that allow free autographs, they have to look at alternate means to make the trip worthwhile for them. Because ultimately, they need to not lose money that weekend, or they might as well just stay and work. As much as they'd love to see everyone, you're not going to come over at a loss. Like, that's silly. They need to at least break even. So the honest answer with selfies is that every year it's at the guest's discretion, and we won't know until the guests turn up. It's pretty standard that every guest will, however, have prints on sale that they sell. So I can almost guarantee that will be the case. But yeah, selfies, it's just a case of get to the table and see. Some guests don't do it, but they don't like it anyway. But some of them, that's the culture, so that's what they do.
Right, okay. He asks as well, same Ashley, he says, are you doing the autograph tokens like last year?
No.
Okay.
They could potentially come back in a future year, but no, last year was a special case where we needed them. So no tokens this year. The only place you'll get something like a token is if you go to the Legend Pass. You have a separate ticket because it helps me to keep track of you. But no tokens this year.
Okay. What would you say is one thing that's happened at TFN that you wouldn't ever dreamed would happen? I guess what's the trying to say. So, what has happened at TFN that you wouldn't have thought in your wildest dreams would have been possible?
Is that from an anonymous person, or are they happy
No,
with the name to be read out?
That's Ashley again. He's asking me questions.
That's Ashley again. I think enough time has passed that I can say this now. So And the reason I asked who had asked that question was to establish whether they were involved in the incident, basically. But Ashley was not. So he's just asked a cool question, so that's fine. So in 2022, which was the first year back from COVID, so there's a lot going on. There's a lot of running the first show in 3 years, so we're trying to find our feet in that. A gentleman passed away on the Friday, and that was not somebody who was part of our party, but it was someone who was on the hotel property. This was, I'll obviously not go into too much detail, but this was a person, like a delivery driver, someone who worked with the hotel, completely unrelated to TFNation. However, the place where he was delivering to was right next door to our delivery bay.
Right.
So when that happened, I, as the event planner for that room, get a call and I'm told, come down because there's been an incident in this area. So in the 2 minutes it took me to get from where I was to get to where I needed to be, I didn't know who that was. Like, the suspicion was maybe it's one of our traders, because none of our attendees would be in the loading bay, but maybe somebody else would be. So that was a strange scenario, because it was our first event back. Never would have expected that to happen. But you have to go on with the show. But at the same time, you have to take certain measures because that's happened. So an ambulance needed to get in, for instance. Okay. In order to facilitate the ambulance, we had to change our loading route because the area was near to our hall. So actually, a good part of that day was spent changing things all around and talking with the police who needed witness statements and things like that, and trying to do it in such a fashion that our attendees didn't know about it, because obviously we didn't know the gentleman's condition. We didn't know who he was. We established he was someone external to us. But, it's not for us to announce that, because there's medical staff there taking care of the guy, and then if they need to speak to his family, that's for them to do. So there are certain ways that we had to act. And I think, honestly, I a couple of members of staff in particular, I won't go into the full details, but some of the actions taken that day were of absolute credit, not only to TFNation, but to just humanity generally, really, to be honest. And I think, like, the way you looked up then tells me that you didn't know about that. And I imagine not a lot of people do, because we didn't tell anyone about that, because there was no need, because it was a private thing. And we always said, we will leave this a good amount of time till we mention it. But that's the type of thing. The only reason I've brought it up today, obviously, because I've been asked the question, and that's the first thing that's come into my head. So it's an honest answer, and enough time has passed that I don't think it's weird. But I think it's important that attendees know that actually, when you've got lots of people together, sometimes people can take ill and things can happen. And just know that the crew might be dealing with more stuff than you know about at any one time. So yeah, that was probably the thing. So
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's a definitely.
There's not a lot to add to that, is there? Really?
Oh,
But,
certainly not. Right. Let's see. I got Peter Hodgson saying, anyone tried putting a red shirt in the wash when Billy washes his black and white shirt?
That's it. You want me to have a pink and black shirt?
Has anyone tried to put a red
shirt in
with your black and white?
Well, I mean, I'm sorry to break the fourth wall here, but we don't all live in the same house. So we do have separate washing machines, And as if I would own any red items of clothing anyway. Do you know what I mean? Like, so no, that's not a thing that goes down here.
Yeah, I just thought that was interesting. Right, so Sam, obviously, he's been watching tonight, but he's literally sent me a list of questions here, but I don't think I'll get through them all tonight, otherwise we'll be here for about another year. So, one of the questions he asked was, how has TFN changed for you over the years?
How has it changed me?
How the event itself has changed over the years.
Oh, how has the event changed, or how has it changed
so that's
me?
what he's trying
How has the event changed? Right.
Yeah.
Okay. How has it changed me is a much deeper question. It's allowed me to become my final form. How has the event changed over the years? That's a good question. So when auto assembly ended, it ended. Like there was no handover. There's no attendee list. There was nothing. So when we decided to make another convention, we literally had to, like, you didn't just get an email one day about TFNation because we didn't have your email address because you'd never worked with us before. So even though we know you, we had to find you and convince you to join our mailing list. So it's changed in the sense that the first couple of TF Nations, although they were very nice, we were still building elements that ultimately would become part of the culture of TF Nation. So the best example I can give is the Forge. So, and Andrew Turnbull was very heavily involved in this. Other people were involved, but he was very heavily involved in it. So we always wanted a fan crafts section, and there was absolutely zero demand for it initially, but there was a lot of demand for fan art, as in drawing and painting and stuff. So we grew that section, but I should take that back. To say there was absolutely no demand, that's not fair. But there was a much smaller demand. That's what I should have said. Mm-hmm. So we put rules in place that said a certain amount of the Forge tables had to be for crafts and some had to be for art, because we knew we could fill a room with artists, but we wanted to encourage that side as well with the crafts, until it got to the point where actually the Forge grew its own sentience, if you will, and it's really got a life of its own now. They don't need that rules anymore because the attendees now understand. And I know that I don't mean that to sound condescending, but like, you imagine when you and I got involved in Transformers conventions, John, like we'd go there for toys. Like, you might get a bit of artwork, but you'd go there for toys. Like if you turned around in your first Transformers convention, or even me, you know, and we saw a knitted keyring of a chubby G1 Cosmos, you'd look at it and you'd wonder why. Like you wouldn't understand, because that wasn't a thing that we were used to at that time. We've had to give the forgers the opportunity to educate people and say, look what we can do. And it's all of their talent. Like we literally just did spreadsheets. Do you know what I mean? It's just making sure there are enough tables in. But I think that's a key thing. So I think culturally speaking, there was a shift from the first two TF Nations to what TF Nation has now become. And I think it all slots together nicely now. I hope I explained that well, because that was a difficult question, but a good one. So thanks, sir.
Okay. Sam again, he asks, what is the most challenging thing when it comes to planning a TF Nation event?
Could you just repeat that for me, please, John? It just crackled a little bit there.
What is the most challenging thing when it comes to planning a new TFN or a TFN event?
The single most challenging thing, gosh. Any member of TFN that you ask this to will give you a different answer, because we all work on different areas. So, like, I'm going to say either the venue or the guests, and I'll probably say the guests. And that's not because I'm saying guests are challenging to work with. It's because you have to actually get one before you can work with them. And like I said earlier, because we treat our convention, our guest list in a certain way, it's not just a case of we email 3 guests, and then if 2 get back, we email 1 more. We do them 1 at a time because we want to make sure there's a balance in the guest list. So it's a long, drawn-out process because we care about it, I guess. So that's challenging. This year has been challenging. And in fact, if I'm completely honest, ever since the pandemic has been challenging, because that culture I talked about whereby guests in North America charge for autographs and we don't over here, that has stopped us from being able to bring quite a few guests over. Because now that the cost of everything has gone up, they're looking at it and they're thinking, we need to cover more costs to make this convention worthwhile. There's only so much we can pay because we only have so many attendees. And so that is a challenge. So some guests are not been able to come. That's kind of where the Legend Pass came in. That generates more revenue. So we can invite the type of guests who we might not have been able to invite in the future. So guest contract. That's probably my short answer to that question.
Okay. So obviously Adam White's been in the chat again. Not been in the chat while we've been talking, but he sent me. But he sent me 4 pretty good questions. He said I don't have to name him or anything, but of course I have to because his name's right there.
Okay.
But he says, 1, how did you get into running conventions? This is obviously to you. It's not exactly an obvious career to cultivate.
No, it's not. So I'm someone who suffered tremendously with anxiety over the years. The idea of doing this, I wouldn't have been able to do a few years ago. Like the best way I can explain like social anxieties or whatever banner you want to use for it. I used to always call it social phobia. And the reason why I used to call it social phobia is because if you've got a phobia of, I don't know, snakes, right? No one has to diagnose you as having a phobia of snakes. You know it, okay? Whereas when you're talking about certain types of anxiety, they are medically recognized things. So it did not feel right for me to use that term. Other people may feel more comfortable. I didn't want to. So I used to call it social phobia. I was terrible. I couldn't walk into cafes. Really bad at everything. So after my first and second Transformers convention, I quickly realized I feel awkward. And if I don't have something to keep me busy, I'm going to stop coming. And it was that. So I got involved, started volunteering, and then little by little did a bit more. And then eventually, we didn't have a convention anymore. So we decided to make our own. And my background it's very boring, but my background is in legal. And so that means even though I didn't necessarily know how to start a company and stuff, I had an idea. So that was a good place to start. And that's where it's come from. So yeah, that's my background, basically, because I felt awkward.
No, we all feel like that from time to time. I feel awkward just stepping out the house for 2 minutes.
You should start a Transformers convention. It's really helped me.
That can only go tits up, man. Right, another question from Adam. He sent me. Says, "Are you seeing more people try out the one-day meets before going to the 3-day events?"
Yes, I think so. So definitely the 1-day mini cons.
Yes.
We don't really, we have meets that are called gatherings. We don't really monitor who comes in great detail because you're not making a purchase. It's like you're just free to come. Although some people do come to them and then come to a convention thereafter. Yeah, definitely. So I can see from our system when somebody's first event was, and then when they've gone to multiple events. So I know, for instance, there are people who went to the first Manchester Minicon who've not missed an event since. So that's really helpful for us because obviously at the end of the day, as much as we try and treat this as a big family thing, it is an events business. And you will always have people who can't come one year, so you always need new people to make up for that. And there's nothing better from an events business point of view than having a healthy attendee base. One of the cool things that we see is that we're in a position whereby we have a rotating attendee list. So like Sam can't come every year, but will come on the years when maybe it'll be every 2 years, maybe every 4 years, right? Okay. He's still a return attendee, but just not an annual return attendee. And they're just as helpful for us as any other type of attendee. So yeah, we definitely do see that. That's a good question.
Okay, well, I think that wraps up what I've been sent in a nutshell, really. And just seeing, we've got Evil Clever Dog.
Okay.
Interesting name. I don't like that name. I bet if you asked Andy Turnbull really nicely, he'd do his best to make a VHS happen. Copyright issues be damned.
He would, however, Isabella, the term is trademark, so like, please be accurate. But yeah, I'm sure he would.
And Raymond just comment, is there any chance the big broadcasts without lockdowns might return in the future for us who can't afford to travel to the minicons / TFNation?
No. The big broadcast. So if you imagine what the big broadcast was, what you saw was, I think it was 12 hours per day of free content, which was built by multiple dozens of hours a day of free work. That's just not viable. They nearly killed Dave Wallace with that. I nearly killed Dave Wallace with the big broadcast. So I couldn't in good faith do that. That doesn't mean that we won't do something that's online. We did the Spotlight Tanya Gennady show, if you remember that, a few years ago. Tanya's great. So like, there's always the scope to do that. But I think the big broadcast is, it's like a flag placed. It's a moment in time where we say, boom, we were told we couldn't do a convention. We did the best we could anyway. And that's what it is. So I don't really want to return to it in the exact format unless there's a compelling reason to do so. And hopefully we won't have that and we can keep meeting up. But yeah, we'll consider whether some kind of online thing is viable though.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's it. I think we're all caught up with that. I don't know if you wanted to talk about what you sent me previously. We've already spoken about one of the images which you announced today. There was two. I don't know if you wanted to finish off on that point. Or...
I'll tell you what I'll do. Let me, off camera, I'm just going to bring up a copy of the images I sent just to remind myself of them. And then are you able to put them up in the order I ask for? Or would they come up, are they in a preset order? Like if I say do this one first, is that possible?
I possibly could do, yes. Let me have a look.
So if it's possible, there is one that looks like an orange. Yeah, there's an orange slogan. If that one's able to be loaded, if not, and they have to go all at once, then that's cool with me. But
right, okay. So we should be able to. Right. So which one are we doing the first? We'll
do the orange one first.
The orange one?
The one that's a slogan.
Yes.
Okay. Breaking TFN news here for you folks.
Here we go then. Drum roll. Steve Mapes is here.
Steve always comes in right on the money, and then he'll disappear again. He's just there for the big announcements. And whoa, okay, that's lots of Billy there. That's more Billy than I need in my life.
Are we seeing it all right on your? No.
No, I'm seeing many versions of the screen that you've got there.
I know. Right, just give me one second.
Have you got two screens?
No. Right, just give me 1 second. I'm just doing it wrong. Let me
that's all right. That's all right.
Is that better?
Hey, there we go. There we go. Like a surprise, then close your eyes. I'm not going to tell you what this is. This is something whereby when our full schedule is released, which will hopefully be over the next few days, the full schedule isn't going to tell you what this is either. This is something which we have found, which we think is a bit of fun, and which we think is a cool thing to do in an anniversary year. It's nothing like a surprise guest or anything. I always say this, I never tease guests because guests are people. So I would never do that, but I'll tease anything else. And I think this is going to be a real eye-opener, pun intended, for people. So have a look when the schedule comes out for Like a Surprise, Then Close Your Eyes. And maybe have a think about what that could be.
Nice. Right, and then the other one. Did you want to do that as well?
And then there was one. Yeah, let's do the other one. This one is one I can talk about a bit more, and it goes right back to a point that you raised earlier. So I think this will be quite interesting for people. In fact, I reckon this is probably quite interesting for you. I reckon you probably will have looked at this and had thoughts. So we are transforming our trader hall layout. So if you're a first-time attendee, none of this matters because you don't remember what it used to be like. But if you are a returning attendee, you will know that the way TFNation has traditionally been set up over the last, 5 years or so, whatever, is that you would walk in, the forge would be in the center, and then you would have long columns of dealer tables with walkways between them. This year, we have changed that. We've left the guests at the top where they always are, but we've placed forge tables around the room. And then in the center of the room, we've developed 4 quadrants, which is where our trader tables are going to be. So the trader tables are going to face different directions. This is a plan that we've been mocking up for several years now. And the primary reason for it is the overall attendance of TFNation. Last year, to put this into context, if you haven't been, TFNation has incredibly generous aisle widths. There is no actual legal law that says an aisle must be this wide at a convention. Okay. Because every convention's different, so it's hard to do. So a lot of people will go by the thought 6 foot. Okay, 6 foot seems like pretty standard. We have never done anything near a 6 foot. Our aisles are always 12 or 13 feet at least, because we have lots of people. We have people queuing up for stalls. We have lots of wheelchair users, people in cosplay. We could fit more trader tables in and make more revenue for the convention if we went with narrower aisles, but we've always wanted wider aisles. This year, with it being the largest TFNation we've ever had, we wanted even wider aisles. And specifically, we also wanted a way for people to not have to walk the full width if they wanted to. So that's why the big aisle in the middle is kind of a cross shape. So that will mean that you're able to walk in all different directions. So it won't feel, hopefully, like you've gone down an aisle that's really busy and you've got stuck because you can't get out, because that's not what we want. What this also does, there are a few members of staff in particular called Mark and Bex who work behind the scenes on some of the real heavy lifting of TFN that sadly people don't get to see. But they've done a lot of work on our health and safety procedures this year. And another reason why we've done this is because there is a certain calculation for how many fire doors you need access to based on how many people are in a room at any given time. So in the past, You are legitimately allowed to, I call it decommission. You're legitimately allowed to not use a fire exit. You can block it off as long as you turn the light off and to get the sign off it. That's allowed, provided you've still got enough of them in the room. We want all of them in operation because there are just so many people now. So I think that will be a big change for people. And to be honest, the reason why we've made this graphic is because we're going to announce this. Well, we've announced it tonight. This is the first time we've announced it, but we're going to post this on social media ahead of the event, because if you've been to more than one TFNation, I don't want you to run in really fast and bang into a table where you're expecting there to be an aisleway or something. So there are much bigger aisleways, but we're just giving people a heads up. It's going to look different this year. And if it's ever going to look different, what better year to do it than in the 40th anniversary, when everything is a little bit different. So that's the idea. One of the things that I always tell people is that the issue with TFNation is that there are no rehearsals. There is no way for us to build that room and get, hundreds, thousands, whatever, of people walking around without it actually being the convention. So we've had to spend lots of hours measuring things, and we think, hopefully, that should work, and that should make not only an improved safety experience for everybody, but hopefully like a more interesting in a different way, a more interesting purchasing experience, because there'll be like different ways to go. You can go around the corners and you go over to that section, then that one. So we think it's a good move. Like everything that we trial for the first time, we will test it and then see after the weekend whether it worked. But ultimately, safety has to come first, and this allows us to get people in and out of that room much more safely, particularly if there is a fire or something like that. We want immediate access to all of those doors. So that's what we've done. So that's one of those things which might actually sound like a little bit of a boring update, but to us, that's a real big thing, because that changes everything. That changes how we build the room, how many people we need, all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's bit of an announcement there for you. Sorry it's not a guest, but hopefully people will at least look at that and take away from it that we've taken steps to try and make it a more comfortable space for everybody this year.
So. Brilliant, yeah. It does look a lot better, I must admit. But yeah, we'll wait and see how it goes, because like I say, I mean, the sheer magnitude of people that just filter into that room, the main dealer room or any room in general, depending if there's what's going on program-wise. But as soon as everyone just filters in, it just gets quite ridiculous. So yeah, it's certainly a good idea what's happened there. It does look a little bit more, certainly more spacious, and you're able to get around, and hopefully not knock a huge unicorn out of someone's arm by accident.
They've allowed us to increase most aisles by like almost a meter. I think I'd have to check it and be sure, but like there's a substantial width difference based on reorientating it. What I've not given you an image of though, because we haven't made one at this point, not one I could share in this format anyway, is what we're also going to change where people collect their wristbands this year. So basically, with the exception of the room where I get my sandwiches, every room at TFNation has been redesigned for this year because of the sheer magnitude of people. So in the past, for instance, you've collected your wristbands in the back end of the panel room, and we've put a partition wall up, but that needs to go now because there are so many people. So we've created a full new registration room, which will introduce people to soon. So it will be a bit of a different experience for people. And as I say, everything is trial and error. We'll see how it goes, but we think it will work, and we think we've tested it enough, and we think it will make it a more comfortable experience for people. We think it will make this room safer, and in the panel room, it'll not only make it more spacious, but it will also get rid of the issue whereby there's noise coming from the back from people checking in, which is a good thing to get rid of as well.
Right, okay. Right. Jermaine's come in saying that was the tease of all teases. And Lawrence,
like a surprise, then close your eyes.
And Lawrence, who's also travelling up with me and Tony, he's here. Hi, Nosley. Hi, Billy.
Yo.
How you doing, my man? Good to see you. And Sam's coming with another question. A quick question. He says, if Billy had to live with a character from the Transformers universe,
oh God,
who would it be and why?
It'd be Ultra Magnus, because we'd have the most ordered house ever. It would be wonderful. We'd never need to see anybody else. We'd be fast friends. It'd be great.
Okay.
There's no other option. He's me. So.
David's come in and said, my wife tells me I still bolt up right some nights screaming big broadcast.
See, I was telling the truth. I do look out for you, Dave. I gave the answer that you would have wanted. So there you go.
Raymond, I'm so sorry, David. Raymond's sorry to David about it. But no, I mean, even though we're joking about big broadcasts, I mean, it was certainly, I mean, like I said, so those 2 years, everything shut down. And I think they definitely served a purpose of getting people out of some kind of a slump that they might have been in, because you can't go out, you can't do this, you can't socialize, you have to limit who you're talking to, and all this and all this kind of stuff that you're told to do at the time. And it was a good distraction, I thought, to get your mind off of things, but also it was still really, really well done, of course, because obviously it's you guys. I mean, the amount of guests you got in there, you got Stan Bush as well, and all this, that, and the other, and it was quite amazing of what you managed to accomplish on something that didn't require a ticket fee or anything like that.
Again, a lot of that was a Dave Wallace thing, to be honest, but it was interesting because, like Dave had this positive mind frame to it, which he clearly no longer has. But he said, we're looking at the physical. I don't know if you actually said this, Dave, but this is what I took from it. We're looking at the lack of a physical convention as being a detriment. Why don't we look at that as a benefit? What benefit do we have from not having to get people to Birmingham? And it's like, well, there's no cost involved. So we can't just have 3 voice actors. We can have 23. We can do stuff that you couldn't do at a normal convention. And that gives you all different avenues to go down. So yeah, don't talk me back into it, though.
Yeah, I think we're pretty much caught up with questions. I don't know if you want to go for a bit longer, or you're happy to stop in about 10 minutes.
I'm completely at your disposal, John. It's one of those things. It's like I'm just, you're someone who does videos every year, multiple videos, helping first timers, reminding returning attendees of stuff, and I really appreciate that. So, the fact that you'd be happy to have me on at all is really cool. I think it's really cool that people are still here this long in. They might actually want to get some food at some point, so we might have to consider that. But otherwise, I'm all good. So I'll just play it by ear, mate. I'll do whatever you feel like.
I'm happy to bring it up to. We're currently at nearly 2.5 hours since we went live. So there is about 11 people watching currently, and the questions seem to have kind of died down. So I think it probably might be a good idea to knock it on the head. But we've done
we can wrap up.
We've covered a lot of bases, a lot of questions have been asked. So thank you very much to everyone that's sent questions in live and also sent me them personally as well. But yeah, this has been a good bit of fun, good laugh, and it was a pleasure to have you on. I'm glad that you wanted to come on.
Absolutely, yeah.
And join me. It was, yeah. I mean, like I said, it's all good and fun. It's all fun and games and everything. we're literally 2 weeks before TFNation, and everyone's getting excited now. So it's just doing this, and then obviously next Friday I'll be doing my pre-TFN live stream I do every year with Tony and everybody. So that'll be just a little extra for people. So, well,
I think it's really cool. I always love the. I might not get to see them all the time, but like certainly I watch your videos whenever they pop up. I comment on them sometimes and stuff. Like I might not see them all, but I really like the fan videos. I mean, Transformers fan. I don't like the idea that TFNation has fans. We have attendees. We have people who come along. Transformers has fans. But I like Transformer fan videos and TFNation attendee videos because they're really helpful. Like you might be talking about something which is run of the mill. Like Jermaine's question about street food and gluten-free options. Like there'll be someone else there thinking that. And they haven't thought to ask, or they didn't feel like they were comfortable asking, but now someone has asked, and that's made their weekend better. So like all of these videos, well, it doesn't matter if I'm on them, but like whenever there are videos about TFN, it's always useful. And one of the things I always say to you, and I say it to anyone, like I always encourage conversation about TFNation. And if something goes wrong, I encourage you to let us know about that as well. Because ultimately, we can only improve things if we know they need to be improved and can be improved. And that's what we want to do. Like, we didn't need to change the whole layout. We could have left it as it was and just saved ourselves far too much work. But ultimately, it's something that we think could improve safety, so we're doing it. And all of the stuff. So always chat about it. Don't ever worry about like upsetting us or anything. It's all positive because we're all shooting for the same thing here, which is to have a fantastic weekend and for it to be good enough that we want to come back again to the next one. And that really is it. And ultimately, it's just a platform to facilitate those one-on-one conversations. Like it's a really elaborate platform that we spend a lot of time on, and we hope it's enjoyable. But that's what it's about. So as long as we can build a thing and keep improving a thing so people keep coming back and making the new friends, that's it. So any discourse about that, it's always good with me.
Okay. Right, we'll just get through these last few comments. There's a couple more questions, so and then
sure thing.
If you want, and we can get some foods.
Hey.
Lawrence says he loves the TFN Dinosaur Plus. We actually showed that off earlier on, so there it is again.
CCM Rex.
It is pretty cool, actually. I know Sam's after one.
She's a girl, by the way. She is in canon. CCM Rex is a girl. In fact, if you're quite boring like me and you read through all of our plushy bios over the years, you will find that they're all in the same continuity. And we have a mixture of genders in there because I didn't want every teddy bear to be a boy. But CCM Rex is not a boy. So there you go.
Okay. Sammy says this has been a very good Q&A, so I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Oh, smashing. Thanks, Sammy.
It hasn't been the best from my perspective, like stumbling over myself, but it has been definitely eye-opening, and having Billy on, of course, has been great. But yeah, very happy people have enjoyed it. That's all I do it for. As long as people get something out of it, that's the main thing.
I think so. And to be fair, John, I think you're doing yourself a disservice there, mate, because like at the end of the day, a lot of people there have stuck with us for a very long time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We've only really lost people who had to go to work and stuff. And, you know, we know that there are other shows out there that people can watch. There's loads of different entertainment. So, yeah, give yourself a bit more credit there, mate. You've done a good job tonight.
Oh, thank you very much. Like I say, that's me in a nutshell. You know, I'm my own worst enemy. But at the same time, you know, I mean, like I say, I mean, that's why I love TFN, because it's that inclusion, and everyone gives you that pat on the back, even though I don't ask for it. But you know, it's nice to get now and again. But like I said, I don't do it for recognition. As I've always said, I don't do all these videos for recognition. I do it just to get the word of mouth out there, like my information videos, announcing the guests and things like that.
The thing is, you create your own recognition, though, like by doing the things, and you don't have to ask for it. By having like the correct attitude and being helpful to the community and helpful to the event, which in turn is helpful to the community, like you will have more people appreciate you than you realize. I certainly do, but you know that because I'm sat here. So, but there'll be other people. There'll be people you've never even spoken to who watch your videos and appreciate that. Andre was the first, and the first of many, I'm sure. So.
Oh yeah, definitely. Right. Right. Okay. Right. Okay. Let's get on with it. Sam has come back saying, "What is the best learning experience TFN taught you?" This is good.
No, it's not a bad one. It's just so basically. Like something I always say to the crew when we have our meetings at the undisclosed location outside of Las Vegas is that within reason, I like it when things go wrong. Because if something doesn't go wrong, you don't learn to do it better. And if you don't learn, there's no point in doing something. Like you need to learn something every time. So I've got lots of learning experiences. Probably the one that has been most beneficial to me is that I by design, I by nature, what I would call myself a planner. That's what I am. In my life, if I need to go and buy carrot sticks to dip into my hummus, right? I'm not going to go and buy carrot sticks. I'm going to read up on every type of carrot stick I can buy from every shop. And I'm going to know how long they are, how square they are, how much they cost. And 6 weeks later, I'll buy carrot sticks. Okay, that's me in a nutshell. And a lot of that is useful for things like doing a trader haul. But the biggest learning experience is there has to come a point where I just trust my judgment and say, I'm doing this because it needs doing. And that is something which I've definitely improved at with experience over the years. Like I can pretty much eye up a haul and know it's going to work, but a haul is not a good example. I can pretty much eye up something we do at the convention and know it's going to work based on doing it previously. I'll still go away and measure it, but I'm now much more direct when something needs doing. And I think that is good as a personality trait generally. So that's my biggest learning experience, is definitely still put the work in, but like trust yourself and your own instincts at times and go for it. So that's what we've done. So rather than sitting on things for many years, just do it. If you can improve it, do it. And if it doesn't work, then that's not good, but at least you learn why it didn't work, and then you can improve it next time, whatever the thing may be. So.
Exactly, yeah, definitely. Right, Sam is back saying, can't wait to see you all again. Yeah, it's going to be great. I mean, it's been a couple of years since I've seen Sammy, actually, funnily enough. But yeah, so it's definitely going to be good. It's going to be a good collection of misfits and a big Ed Knowlesy, me.
we have got obviously I won't name them, but we have got quite a few attendees this year who are returning after a few years off. So that'll be quite cool to see. So it will be a real mixture of like long time attendees and brand new attendees. So I think it's cool.
That'd be cool, yeah. I mean, like I say, I can understand, life, the real world, life gets in the way, and most of these people are married and got families and all this, that, and the other. So that takes more precedence over a convention, of course. And
but it's okay, because we all make mistakes, and that we all learn at some point that we shouldn't have done that, and we should instead just contribute to the greater goal. So yeah, that's their fault. But
that's true. But yeah, but no, it's good when that's why I keep going to these, because obviously you get the die-hard, as you said earlier on, you get your die-hard ones that go every single year, and then you got the ones that might take a bit of a gap once or twice, and then come back. But it's good to get people and catch up with people, and that's the whole reason why I do it every year. Really, just catch up with people, because I can't afford to go to all these different meetups and everything. And even though I'm doing Reading Minicon as well in November, because that's literally a week before my birthday, actually. So I'm going to probably make it a bit. So sweet. I shouldn't have said that, because Adam White's here. I can see me getting shrink wrapped to a street post or something.
Adam, have you got history for this? Like, is there a story I don't know here?
I don't know. But no, just
you're not coming to my birthday then. To be fair, I haven't had a birthday party since I was 10, and I didn't like it. They're not for me, so hey. There's no shrink wrap though.
Adam, great work, guys. Lovely to hear you chat. Yeah, it's definitely been good. It's been a good night. Better than I thought it would be, actually. I thought it was just going to be me yammering, trying to get my words together, which was a little bit of that, but no, it's been good. It's been
good, mate. It's been good. It's sometimes it's good just to have a free-flowing conversation, isn't it? Not have to worry too much about lines and whatever. So.
Oh yeah, definitely. Lawrence, this is probably the last question we're going to get, I assume. So, what's Billy's advice for first timers?
There's lots of advice, and in particular, there's a big section in the program. Genericon, who, as I say, still unhappy with, only works once per year. Not my favorite bot, but she has written a section for first timers, so read that. If I had to give just one bit of advice, though, I would say, and I'm coming at this from the point of view of someone who suffered from anxiety, so that's my skew on it. Make an effort to say hello to someone. And that, for certain people, that is no effort whatsoever. For certain people, it's the hardest thing in the world. It was for me. I was lucky because I already knew someone off a forum, so they introduced me to people. Not everyone has that luxury. But try it, because you won't look back. Because the thing is, you only have to get chatting with one person, and it can be a volunteer. Like we say to people all the time, like, speak to one of us and we'll point you in the direction of like someone cool. Someone got in touch just today while I was out saying, where can I go to find if people are like organizing room shares and stuff like that, for instance. So, the stuff like that happens. So speak with someone. And I think as well, if you're anxious, tell them you're anxious. You've got the conversation starter anyway, because we're all here for Transformers. So you can go up to someone and ask what their favorite series is, and they won't find it weird. And they'll say, oh, Beast Wars, whatever, what's yours? And then you'll tell them and say, I hope you don't mind me having a chat. I'm a bit anxious or whatever. And that person will probably become your best mate, because that's how nice the community is. So try that. And even if you don't drink, you don't have to. Try and get to the bar, because that's where a lot of the socializing takes place. So that's my key thing. There's lots you can do, but just try and say hello to someone. And if you're not sure, find someone like John Knowles, who you recognize from the internet. Seriously, though, or someone like Triple Takeover, or the guys from Transformers the Show, or any of these places. Failing that, find a volunteer. They're in bright blue. You'll be able to see them. I'm dressed like a barcode. Like I can help you if you like. I might be a bit busy sometimes, but that's not to say that I won't stop and talk to people and help them. I absolutely will. So just chat with someone that you recognise, and we'll put you in the direction of people. But yeah, that would be my thing. Talk to someone.
Okay, pretty cool. All right, so we'll whiz through all this, and we've got Lawrence. Right, Lawrence says, my first time at TFN was 2017. Helped my barriers. Helped to sort my barriers. I heard about it through YouTube videos. It is the best promotion. Yeah, so it's anxiety barriers and things like that. So
Yeah.
but it's helped him through. But yeah, I get that. It's helped me a lot as well through going to them. So I get it.
It's helped me. You know, I was in a position. I don't do it much anymore, but I was in a position where I had to speak on stage.
Yeah.
You have to get over it at that point, and I don't mean that in like a, you know, belittling anxiety. Certainly not. But like you have to find a way to battle through it. And you know, one of the things that I had with anxiety, it's not always about going into a crowded room of people. It's maybe about having a conversation with a single person who you think is more qualified than you. So, like a senior member of hotel staff or a senior agent for an actor, or you know, something like that. And ultimately, like we're all just people. So yeah, it definitely helps. It's helped me in that ways.
I don't understand.
It's all right. I'll teach you. If you look in the first timer guide series, Jenny's laid it all out for you. So she's a bot as well, so it'll be fine.
That's random. That keeps happening randomly every single night for the past
Or is
week.
it Alexa?
It's something on my bloody phone, and it just randomly just comes up. Alexa's downstairs.
All right. I was gonna shout loads of Alexa commands and just make your lights go on and off and stuff. And
that's really strange. It happens like every night at the same time. It's really weird. I must have set something up without thinking. I don't know. Anyway, as Sam says, milk it for what it's worth, mate. I'm not going to milk anything. And Sam's back saying John was shrink wrapped to a lamppost on his 18th. I don't actually remember this, so I must have been in a bad state. See me. All right, and this is going to be the last thing, and then we'll call it a night. But it says, so Gallo Brown, this is true. Talk to someone, and you'll be surprised how things go. I met Billy on a flight of stairs, running back and forth, and then he ended up being the best man at my wedding. Best people ever.
That sounds like a good place to end it, really, doesn't it? I don't know if I can improve on that. Very kind of you, Dave. Thank you. It is a shame that 10 minutes before your wedding, you had to run to a flight of stairs and pick a stranger to be your best man. But nevertheless, I'm glad that I got that honor. So, yeah.
All right, I think that's going to be it. But thank you very much for taking the time out this evening. And plus, with having going to the Paramount screening and all that. But yeah, thank you very much for taking the time. It's been
Thank you for the invite. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate everyone, not only for the questions, but like for sticking with us, because like we've had a bit of a session here. We specifically didn't go into this with too much of a plan, because the idea was a bit like one of the panels we discussed earlier. Let's see where the conversation goes, and hopefully it's been interesting for people. If not, why are you still here? What are you doing? Like, go and watch the big broadcast. Like,
I mean, this is definitely a first for me when it comes to like the most I've ever probably had is about 10 watches, which is fine. I'm happy, but that's about as much as I've had. But I'm literally just in the dying embers, and there's still 12 people watching, so it's not bad. Not bad at all.
I think we can go away thinking that this is it's been a good day. It's been a good day, and hopefully it's been useful.
I mean, at the peak, it has peaked to nearly 20 viewers as well, live chats. So I'm happy. It seems to have definitely gone down well, and I think people have definitely been looking forward to it. So
cool. Well, if it's gone well, and I'm sure we'll chat about it afterwards. But like, maybe we'll do it again sometime. Like, it's
definitely
something we could do. Yeah,
definitely. If our calendars synchronize, we can do it. Definitely.
We can try that. My people will speak to your people, and then they'll measure your hallways and make sure it's safe, and then we'll do the thing. And remember, like a surprise, then close your eyes.
I'm scared now. Right, okay, so we're going to finish off, but thank you very much to everybody that's sent in questions and been chatting to us while being live. And of course, thank you to Billy for taking the time. out of his day, his busy schedule. But yes, definitely see all of you very soon. 2 weeks to go. Can't wait. It's going to be good. It's going to be an absolute blast. It always is. Well, take care, everybody, and see you soon.
Smashing. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
See you soon.